Here.
Thomas.
Here.
Miska.
Here.
We are going to approve of the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Moved and second to approve the agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Part 3, we are, my opening statement for the proposed tax information. This public hearing is required as part of the district's certified budget. The notice provided to each resident shows the maximum total property taxes the district will adopt as part of the certified budget, which will be adopted by April 30th. The board secretary is hereby directed to enter any written comments into the record of this public hearing. For those of you in attendance, thank you for being here today. We value your input and are interested in hearing your comments. If you are planning on speaking, please fill out the form on the back table, including your name and address, and hand it to the board secretary. Your names will be called in the order received. Each speaker will have a maximum of 5 minutes. Your public comments will be considered as part of the district's final budget decisions. As a reminder, board members are present to listen to and receive those comments. Board members will not engage in dialogue or respond to questions during this meeting, but may address issues that arise at a future board meeting. We are ready to proceed. Please call the first name.
Well, first of all, to receive written comment, I just wanted
Oh,
to.
excuse me.
Yeah, I just want to say that, I thought that we needed to read written statements out loud, but after further review, I was incorrect on that. We just enter them into the written record. The law states at this hearing, the political subdivision shall receive oral or written testimony from any residents or property owner of the political subdivision. And we had one written comment that was dropped off this morning here in the office. The individual did not want to give their name and wanted to remain anonymous, so I can't verify if they're a resident or a property owner. But in the spirit of wanting to remain transparent, I went ahead and made a copy of that statement for all of you guys. And if it's at the board's decision, I'll just enter that into the written record that we received an anonymous written statement.
Any questions about that? Okay, now we're ready to receive the oral comments. I think it's Janet Longley is first on the list. Yes, Ms. Longley. Yes, ma'am.
Well,
Whatever you feel comfortable with.
I really don't have anything to say except that I hear, I might be wrong, but I've heard that Avenue County and this area is high enough on taxes compared to other places in the state. And I think it needs to stop. I think we need to do other things than increase taxes.
Thank you. The next person I have is Jan McDonald.
Yes. On this notification of proposed tax, of proposed property taxation, it shows the proposed tax rate, the effective rate, and then it has this little blurb down at the bottom, which is cut off. Levying the full rate authorized by the nothing. I think it seems to me that we have no information. You know, as taxpayers, we should have a full understanding of what it is that has caused this deficit. And I don't hear that. I don't see it. Have you printed it? Have you shown in your budget why we are having this deficit?
Okay. As stated here, we cannot answer questions.
I thought that's what this hearing was for.
No, we are supposed to listen to and receive comments, but we will not engage in dialogue or respond to questions. It's the way the law is written.
But I'm happy to take calls in the office during the day, the rest of them too, to answer questions.
Why is it a public hearing if you can't answer questions?
That's how public hearings work in the law. Yeah, it's the school office number here. I'm happy to answer any questions for anybody. I'll sit down with somebody and kind of explain that form with you if you'd like and help out. Mark Taylor, superintendent, please feel free to stop in or call if you don't want to stop in person.
Is this already a done deal? You're
Yes,
already
budget,
going
yeah.
through with this tax levy increase of about, like, it looks to me, 15–16%? You're already going to do
I'd be
this?
happy to explain it to you during the week. Feel free to stop in.
Honest to goodness, what public servants?
You, at the risk of violating any sort of federal law, we're following the law, okay? And Mr. Taylor will be happy to explain anything that you want. That's it. It's the best we can do.
When did this change?
2 years, last year, was the first year that this notice went out. Yeah.
It's a state law.
Yes, yes, ma'am. It was adopted by the legislature last year.
And you agree to it? Do you have to agree to it?
No, we don't agree with a lot of things that the DE and all those give us, but that's just what happens. We have to follow the laws.
So why is this a public hearing?
For us to hear comments. So if you have a comment speaking towards it, we can hear your comments. But by law, we're not allowed, because of the sunshine laws, we're not allowed, the board is not allowed to have deliberation about those. They're not allowed to respond back.
Not much sunshine.
A little confusing. Anyone else? I only have these two here to speak.
How many here are for increasing your property taxes? Hmm? So, should we have a vote? Since that's kind of a public thing.
You know, I'm
How
sorry.
many of us would like to have our taxes increased?
I'm sorry, that's the best we can do.
So, Mr. Taylor, maybe we can't answer this, and if I'm out, I'm out. Can we provide clarification on that document and why it has to be sent out and why those numbers are not?
So the middle column on that document is a number that never existed. That's based on this year's valuations, it's based on this year's state allowed amount that you can get. And it's, there's actually a statement from Larry Sickle, who is the leading expert on Iowa school finance in the state, explaining how the Department of Management comparison there with that middle column is something that can't exist. And that's on your table there. And it's based on rollbacks that changed, it's based on assessments that changed, it's based on, school district budgets are largely driven by enrollment. So that's something where the number of students that a school district has determines how much the budget for that school district is, which has some impact on property tax. In a district such as Centerville, it has a smaller impact than in a district such as, say, one of the northern lake cities, Spirit Lake or something to that effect. Because we are what's considered a property poor district, which means that a larger percentage of our school district's budget actually comes from the state coffers than comes from our local property tax coffers. So we, every district has what's called a uniform levy. So that uniform levy is that, it has been $540. The legislature has had some discussions of changing that amount this year. So potentially lowering that amount. So that's levied to the local property taxpayers in a district. And maybe this would be something for future, we can ask if we can do this before, because that might help answer these questions every year when we do these meetings. We can ask permission on that. But that uniform levy will make up a portion of the total district cost per pupil, which is approximately $7,800 per student is what a district receives to educate that student. which is closer to national average. It's a little on the low side, but it's close to national average. $5.40 per student here makes up, I think it was like $1.30, $1.40, makes up a small amount of that. We get state aid that takes us up to 87.5% of that, and then the additional levies go on top of that, some of which is supplemented by state. In the case of like a Spirit Lake, when they do their $5.40 per $1,000 levy, it actually makes up a large portion of their $7,800 per student. So they do a lot from their local property tax there because their property valuation is so high per student. So if you have a small number of students and a high property valuation, $5.40 per $1,000 makes a whole bunch. If you have more students but poor property value, then your $5.40 per student doesn't make up a lot of that. So for us, we just happen to be one of the benefits. We are, on average, a much bigger taker from the state coffers to be equal with the rest of the schools in the state as a result of our property valuations and number of students. Because we're barely in the upper half in terms of size of districts, but we're well in the lower half on property valuations per pupil. So I don't know if that answered your question very well, but it kind of roughly explains kind of how school finance works, like really roughly. Unless it was too much.
I'm not on the list to speak, but may I ask a question in regard to what he just said?
You could ask, but I can't guarantee you'll get an answer.
That's fine, that's
Okay.
fine. If I understood you correctly, you're saying that you get about $7,800 per student.
Per pupil.
Per pupil. Okay, so are you saying that on an average, it costs more than $7,800 per pupil to educate that child per year? And if that's the case, what do you anticipate it actually costing to educate that child?
If I can give a little bit on that. That depends, that actually depends on the situation. So a student with special needs that would require a one-on-one associate might cost more than that. So a lot of times, your average cost per pupil to educate a pupil would be lower than that, because we actually underspend our budget by a little bit each year. We are very fiscally conservative. Our unspent authorized budget is actually in a very healthy condition, and we do that because we realize that the state coffers are in danger. So we try not to spend what we can in a year so we can be safe. We're fiscally conservative. The school
Excuse me.
business official and I.
This year, as of February 24, the state increased it by 3%. The 2025-2026 year,
Yeah, I'm not really here to debate politics. I'm just telling you
$7,864.
what the financial experts that tell us how to manage
That's
the budget
fact.
tell us. Oh, we're well past that time on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I'd be happy to help out some more.
No, I think I understood you correctly.
You're-
I just wasn't
Right, yeah.
certain, and I wanted
Yeah,
to ask if I was understanding what you said.
depending on the needs of the student, yeah.
Right, and I didn't think of that portion of it, and I apologize for
No,
that.
you're fine.
But I was trying to comprehend what you were saying, and that's what I thought you were saying.
If somebody would like to nerd out over school finance with me sometime, I'm totally game to do that. I'm a nerd about it and would love to talk.
I think that probably the governor, which forced your planners on budget or money to schools, pushing money toward private schools and helping with tuition is going to affect that money. Okay, I'm convinced of that. The other thing is that I agree with the lady back here, we're designated as one of the poorest counties in the state, but we continue to build and expand in all levels. I got 2 other meetings to attend with the city and the county. And yet, everybody keeps saying we're monetarily conservative. For Christ's sake. I don't understand all that, but I do know that I've never seen in my lifetime a tax come down.
We've, the
Okay.
last 3 years, lowered the taxes.
That may very well be true, and I'm not gonna debate it with you, you know, I don't. But I'm just saying that on the basis of overall taxation, they move up, not down.
Okay, I think I've pushed it as far as I
That's
legally
fine.
can go here, okay? And I'm sorry if we didn't answer all your questions, but they will be answered if you contact Mr. Taylor. At this time, I don't think we have any other oral comments. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Regular board meeting. Call to order, roll call.
Here.
Carter.
Here.
Efren. Here. Johnson.
Here.
Taylor. Thomas.
There's what we were talking about for our financial people.
At this time, I would like to welcome visitors. It is our public forum. Anyone who wants to speak? We have one person here. Elizabeth Logston.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. I want to start off by thanking you for allowing us the time to be here and to voice our opinions tonight. For those of you who don't know me, I am Elizabeth Logston. I taught at Centerville for 15 years, and I have been the head track coach for 16 years. I have grown this team from 5 athletes to 60 athletes over that time. My team philosophy has always been that our team is the reason some of these athletes come to school and that the reason they have to pass their classes. We strive to develop not just athletes, but athletes who are respectable, who are good sportsmen, and who are good leaders. Our team has also had 4 athletes go on to compete at the college level. All have received scholarships to Indian Hills Community College. Our team has been virtually self-funded, except for the use of your bus driver and your bus, and our 2 coaching salaries. We have not asked the school for any money or support for our facilities or our team supplies in 16 years. We could not do that without the help of many generous businesses, including those who fund us solely because of our affiliation with Seymour. Some of those businesses include Young Trucking, AP Roll-Offs, Lockridge, Southern Iowa Gutters, and Duke Reynolds. I couldn't have built this team without the help of many very important people over the years. I would like to introduce you to a few of those stakeholders now and allow each of them the opportunity to speak as to why they hope that the board will consider allowing the Seymour athletes to continue to be a part of our team. First, my assistant coach, Chad Butler. He's a dedicated volunteer for over 6 years and a parent of 2 graduated team members. Lisa Carter, grandparent of 2 of our Seymour team members and a cheerleader for our team at every meet. Matt Harriman, his assistant coach, team volunteer for over 5 years, our bus driver, and a parent of a graduated member. Rodney Robertson, assistant coach for 4 years and father of 3 of our Seymour team members. Once they've all had a chance to share their opinions, I'd love to answer any questions that you have.
Thanks for allowing us the time to be here. I'm Chad Butler. I'm the assistant coach for the trap team. And I'm here just because I want the board to understand the impact that the agreement has with Seymour and us having those kids with us. It doesn't only affect the coaches. We with 60 athletes, we have to have a bunch of coaches on this team. Okay, most of them are volunteer. Liz and I are the only 2 paid coaches. Matt's a volunteer, Ronnie's a volunteer, and we have a couple others. But with 60 kids, there are times we go to trap shoots and there are 4 or 5 ranges out there, and we have a squad on each one maybe at the same time. So there's 5 coaches. You have to have 1 coach on every range at least. So there's 5 coaches. If we lose Seymour, we lose coaches. If we lose coaches, our kids are gonna suffer too, because we're gonna have to cut the team back in size in order to be able to compete. Just because of the safety factor of it. You have to have 1 coach per range. If you're on 4 ranges or 5 ranges, that's 4 or 5 coaches. So our kids are gonna miss out. I know when this first started, it was strictly high school that shot. There was no middle school. And now we have middle school shooting lists as well, which added a lot of kids to our roster. But so I just want to make sure that y'all understand the impact that would have on the team. If we have to cut middle school back out of it because we don't have enough coaches and strictly go back to high school only, I mean, that's, our kids suffer for that. So I just want everybody to understand what the impact is on having that agreement with Seymour, or any other school for that matter. So, thank you.
Can I ask a question, because I'm confused?
Sure.
Are you talking about coaching track or trap?
Trap.
Trap. Okay, I have a little bit of hearing loss. Okay.
Sorry.
And are you coaching trap for Centerville schools or for Seymour schools?
Both.
Yes.
Both.
Okay. Which is the primary? I mean,
I am paid by Centerville.
that's what I want to know. Okay, thank you for the clarification. I thought you said track and I was really confused.
No, I don't run.
Okay. I don't either, but so thank you for the, I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's okay.
Start the race though, you know.
Remember,
But probably not shotguns.
No running.
she doesn't run, she shoots.
There we go.
Who was next?
Hello, I'm Lisa Carter. I have 2 athletes now that shoot for the team. 5 years ago, Rodney, we're in Seymour, came and wanted to put my granddaughter and his 2 daughters on this team. And I knew nothing about this sport whatsoever. And so we got our girls involved in it, and it has been such a great thing for them. The discipline, the coaches have been excellent with them. They have learned so much. And our girls collectively have went out for a lot of different sports, softball, basketball, volleyball, or whatever, but this has been the one constant. His daughter will graduate this year, and it'll be her 5th year, and the other girls are juniors and are in their 5th year also, and would love to stay with this team to finish out their high school career. But now we have grandson and his son Lane are shooting in their 7th grade and 8th grade, and I look for them to shoot all through their high school careers, and it has opened up a lot of opportunities for them, not maybe being physical athletes maybe, but giving the kids who maybe don't have that opportunity the ability to be able to apply for a different scholarship, you know. And they've been very successful at this, and they really enjoy it, and I would really hate to lose the opportunity. I think we will have a lot more kids from Seymour that will be interested in shooting. I think we have 7 or 8 now, maybe.
7 this year.
So, and we did have 2 or 3 that really wanted, they missed the sign up, so we'll work on that next year, but I hope you'll reconsider and, you know, let us stay a part of this team.
Robbie?
As far as the facilities, like I say, I have 3 kids that are shooting. I went to school in Centerville. I have more pride for this school than, I say Seymour. I can go there. My kids might, but it's an honor to volunteer for over here. The sport is really, it's one of the fastest growing sports in the nation. There's going to be full ride scholarships before long for college and stuff. But as far as facilities wise, we all share the same range. I know Centerville Shelter, the college, Moravia share the same range. It'll almost be impossible if we have to separate for us to shoot anywhere because there's not enough days in a week to practice. It would be really hard. Then on top of that, the funding, like I said, we have 7 kids. I mean, we don't have, you have to have at least 5 in the same age bracket, same shooting year, I should say, to even have a team. And it's pretty much impossible for us right now. So I greatly appreciate it. Allow us to continue. I would look forward to it. Like I say, my son will be shooting for another 4 years, and I really enjoy the coaching factor of it. That's all I have. Thank you.
I don't think I have anything else to add. I think these guys covered it well, other than, keep it going for us.
I just want to add another thing to what Ronnie said too, is that it is one of the fastest growing sports. When my kids shot, and they're both graduated, my daughter went on to shoot for Indian Hills, it is huge. When my son started shooting, we went to state, it was only on the weekend. It was a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and everything was done. Now they have so many kids in the state doing shooting in this sport that they have it during the week. So we have middle school that shoots like on Monday and Tuesday in June, and then high school strictly on the week, on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That's how big. Thousands of kids are up there for the state shoot. So this sport is huge, and it's a huge opportunity for a lot of kids that don't have opportunities for other sports. So just please keep it going for us. We appreciate it. Thank you.
I just want to thank all of these guys for being here with me tonight and thank them for expressing their opinions to the board. And if you have any further questions about our team, I'll be happy to answer them. Or I can stick around until it's on the agenda, whatever you like.
Any questions or comments?
What? Yeah, well, I'll stay.
Yeah.
No, I want to thank all of you for showing up and giving us some insight, because that's a lot of information I know I personally didn't know. So thank you guys for taking the time of your evening to come in and tell us that.
Yeah, I think, what I think about any sport that keeps more kids involved in school is good. Maybe sometimes it keeps them in school. So, sports have a lot of advantages, and some disadvantages, we all know that too. But there's a lot of advantages to be active.
I think it's important to note that these aren't just Centerville kids. We're talking about the opportunity for the kids at Seymour as well to have those advantages as well. So if their school isn't able to provide it, we need them, we want them, and we'd like to keep that.
Okay, I'd like the board to sort of reserve any other comments they have until we get down to that agenda item. Next, item 3 is the approval of the agenda. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Approved minutes of the previous meeting. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the minutes of the previous meeting signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We have no old business. New business, we have our student representative again.
So I came from soccer practice, so I didn't have my notebook with me. But we had the career fair last week, and many students were involved with that. And I feel like it was an opportunity to get more job insights and connections, right? And we had the HCTs and sophomore Indian Health Career Day, where we got to go see the opportunities there. And then for our homecoming competitions, which is a while ago, but we had a senior pizza party because they won. And that's about it. We don't have much going on.
Any questions for our representative?
Did you try to land the plane, the career fair?
Did you try to fly? I
Oh.
don't think you did.
Yeah, you brought the flight simulator with you.
I was too busy talking to you.
That's true.
Well, now I know who your favorite is.
That was all about going with my daughter to a concert, so that was.
Monopolized her
It's all
time.
right, because the flight simulator was not cool at all, so.
He will see you outside. Thank you, ma'am.
Just because you couldn't land it on the grounds.
I still landed.
Any other questions about our student representative? All right, we're gonna move on to item B, resolution authorizing the redemption of general obligation school bonds, series 2021 dated June 28, 2021, approving an escrow agent agreement and levying a tax for fiscal years 2026 for the redemption of general obligation school bond series 2021 dated June 28, 2021.
Move to adopt the resolution as read.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the resolution. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Roll call, sorry.
Oh, excuse me, this is a roll call.
Berger,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Shepherd,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, we're down to item C, approval of the AEA proposal.
Okay, so you probably saw in your packet the item that had the AEA logo on it and said 12. So our AEA flow-through dollars for next year that we get to choose how to spend are $172,397 for the general ed and media services, and for the 10% that the district will keep from the special ed dollars and choose how to spend is $42,486. The proposal that you see there that came in your packet is slightly off. We made an adjustment to increase days for the science consultant and decrease days for the UPAR. Yes, thank you, for UPAR, which I'm going to admit to you, Julie is the expert of that. What is UPAR, Julie?
Universal screener for students who need some accommodations and reading.
So because Julie is extremely gifted, we don't need as much support there, so we can save some money there. So overall, the cost should be about the same as what's on there. It's just changing which people we have which days. So we, of the 172,000, we would only be spending 144,348.36, which means we'll be able to offset general ed costs in the district, save money for the district to the tune of $28,048.64 from that. And of the special ed costs listed on there, we'll only spend $33,390, saving our district special ed money $9,096 from that. And still getting, I'd say probably even more services than we received in previous years. I mean, honestly, it's a great amount of service. It's gonna be really valuable to our kids. So we're able to Julie and I were able to put our heads together and find some great ways to be kind of efficient with how we use these services to get the best bang for our buck and save some money.
Question would be, is this quote, what do we do with this quote if that's not? It's in our packet.
What do you mean? Oh, yeah, so I'll tell you, on the line that says science consultant, it says 2 days on your packet. It should say 4 days, which will change the amount for that line item to $3,688. Then the line near the bottom of that top section under educational services that says UPAR will go down to 2 days, which changed the cost to $1,844.
Okay, I guess what I'm asking, do we need
It'd be
an
nice if,
updated quote?
it'd be nice if the motion were to approve as amended.
Okay, there.
I think that would be a good way to do that.
The overall dollars didn't
Yep,
change.
right.
Just where we're spending it.
We didn't go seek out, we didn't expect this would be a place to find savings when we started the process, but managed to find some in here.
I'm listening.
What's the membership?
That's what lets us do like the curriculum director network, the superintendent network and all that. They've got some other networks too.
Well, and I think you had to pay that to be able to get any service. Like, I mean, it's like their
Yeah.
for service.
To begin with them.
So, I see we have, the social worker, is there psychological services down here somewhere?
They do offer sharing of social workers and counselors, but at this point, we actually determined, because there was an offer on the table to maybe share one of our counselors, the one that we share through the AEA and use AEA dollars for that. But when we did the math, it was actually gonna cost us more for less time. So we elected not to propose that, and to hire our own, social emotional support. We can do it at a little cheaper rate.
Because they don't necessarily provide direct service of that specific area. It's more consultant type work.
Make a motion to approve as amended.
Second.
A motion and a second, approval of the AEA proposal. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item D, approval of the support staff makeup day plan.
So after looking at records of who's made up what days and what is available, we actually proposed, we talked about how many days to forgive for the support staff. We're actually proposing that we forgive 2 days, because we've had some people that have made up beyond that, and instead of paying for extra days for having had snow days, this allows us to give everybody the same benefit and not hurt anybody that's done their part to make those days up to this point. That's what we're recommending to the board for the number of days to forgive the support staff.
I so move, we accept that.
Second. With a motion and a second to approve the support staff makeup day plan. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Thank you.
Item E, discussion of the elementary science position.
Okay, so this one's kind of a fun one. And I'm excited because this is instructional, and I don't get to talk instruction much. We have an opportunity with it looks like we will have hit our savings goals for the year based on the declining enrollment, to where we have a teacher, we are in excess in one classroom teacher at the elementary level beyond what we would need for our class size, kind of keep maintaining small class sizes. What we would like to do is to hire one of an internal only person, not somebody external, to hire somebody to teach science as a special at the elementary level. There's been an increase in the testing requirements for science and the importance of science on our school report card. And what has happened in the US since No Child Left Behind, and our district is no different, the amount of science instruction at the lower levels has drastically dwindled from when we all went to school. And this would give us an opportunity to get students a 40-minute science in each grade, K through 5, 40-minute science once every 4 days, in a dedicated space where a person has the ability to set up labs and have them set up for the day, and somebody who's really focused on just doing a great job teaching science. We believe not only will this help us with our science scores and in turn our school report card, but also it'll probably help our students be more interested in STEM field careers. And it's something that can be very unique about us as a school district, something that maybe other places aren't able to offer, but we can offer to students in our elementary school to give a little bit more to them. And also it allows us to free up some time of our counselors. So I saw Brian just came in, he's hiding, oh, right there, right in front of me. This will allow him to use his counselors instead of in teaching guidance class all the time. He can move back to like a once a month guidance class and allow them to respond to individual student behavioral and emotional needs. So we're using those counselors for what we pay for an actual counselor to do. Kind of a unique opportunity given that we have that extra, I don't want to say extra body because that doesn't sound right, but an extra person that we could do that. What we'd like to do is open it up to the teachers that are at the elementary and allow those teachers to apply as they see fit to try to hire one of the people into that and then adjust grades appropriately to make sure we have the 4 sections we need in each grade. The reason I say it might be a 1-year proposition is tentatively the incoming kindergarten might be a little bit back to our normal, so we may need 5 sections of that going through in years down the road. And depending on where we are financially, maybe we'd hire a new person to be that 5th traveling person, or we pull that science person back in and put our counseling person in. But we believe this could be a great solution and something that could be unique for our district. I've seen one district do this before. Winterset had done this for a number of years at their elementary school and saw some benefit for it for their kids. The superintendent who was there that instituted that then went on. She worked at the AEA out west, Susie Mead. She she told me all about it. I went there and met with her about it. It was a really good deal for their school. I think it could be good for us. And really today, I'm just kind of looking for just, yeah, that seems like a really cool idea, or a what is wrong with you, Mark? So that I know whether to start the process and make that happen. There's not really a job description. It's something that this will be a little bit of hopefully we can get the process done and locked in quick so we can have that person hired and spend some time this spring to plan with that person. Because this is gonna be like building the ship, right? Because there's no such thing as a science as a special curriculum available to us right now. So we're gonna have to pull out standards from each of those grades and really put something together so they have a chance to do hands-on learning with those kids. Any questions that I can answer?
And we have elementary teachers that have that expertise.
Yeah, I think we've got some that would do a really nice job with it. The good news is every elementary teacher can teach this position because it's just an elementary classroom position. And I think what we would look for is somebody who's got a passion in STEM. Somebody who wants to, you know, I don't want to say we got to find Miss Frizzle. But, you know, somebody like, we're looking for a Miss Frizzle here. Or Mr.
Yeah,
Frizzle.
that would be good.
Maybe Mr. Frizzle.
So would they still have science
Yes.
in the classroom?
Yep,
With
but
the
this would
classroom teacher?
supplement that
This
a lot.
is just a, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so they would have science in the classroom.
Yeah, but right now, our science in the classroom, as is the case for most districts, is pretty minuscule. I mean, science really dwindled as most schools moved to 120 minutes of literacy instruction, 90 minutes of math instruction. The day is very much eaten up in elementary schools in the US. So this gives us some set time that we know for a fact, once every 4 days, you're gonna have a 40-minute lesson, and it's gonna be really focused on science. Which we think could be a real benefit for us, especially as we figure out what in the world that looks like as this is added to the school report card. Because the fact that that got added in the most recent update kind of threw some people for a loop on just what that'll mean for schools.
I really like the idea because if kids, you know, see more science at that level, then they'll take more science when they get in high school and take more chemistry and
Sure.
physics.
How are we historically with these extras, for lack of a better word, keeping them beyond a year? Like, let's say we create something for a year, how have we been in the past in maintaining that?
Well, so this, the way that we're talking about it, with it already being built into the budget for moving forward, the way that we've got it, we should be good financially on that. Again, unless we lose 60 kids.
Right.
Everything changes when you lose 60 kids, but I don't know that I've got enough history on knowing that, to be honest with you. The other position that I can think of that it would be similar to would be like the at-risk position, which we just are, as you saw in your packet, our at-risk person is leaving us. We do have that posted right now, but obviously that would be a position we would fill after we fill other kind of more vital jobs like the science the science position still.
And you really hit the nail on the head when you talked about so much of the day, you know, you have this many minutes for your core subjects and there's no time. And that's the thing the kids love.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I had a superintendent that always said, and I kind of laughed when he said it because he was really probably, I'm informal, but he was even more informal. He said it reduces the suck factor, you know, of school science and sports and music, and trap shooting. That reduces the suck factor for kids. That makes school fun to be a part of. And I think this could be a chance for that, just like art and PE and music.
Yeah, I'm behind it, 100%. I wouldn't, double-edged sword. I wanna see the enrollment in the next years increase for kindergarten, so I don't want us to get into a position where that has to go away.
Right.
So I think.
And I'd say the more.
My thought would be, let's roll with it.
Right.
If that is bestowed upon us, we increase that enrollment.
And I hope so.
We'll figure that out. But
The most likely thing to cause that issue, making this go away, would be bodies.
Right.
Finding quality teachers in the environment that we've got with teacher shortages. We were really lucky with some good contacts at the career fair this year, but I'll tell you, I've got friends who would say they don't feel nearly as lucky this year, that the shortage is hitting them hard still. So I think you're right, that is a concern.
Right.
Like a good idea to me.
And science is so much preparation. You know, if you can have one person doing all of that, that would really take the load off and it helped, maybe we wouldn't have so much.
That's kind of what
Such a
Julie said,
shortage.
actually.
Yeah,
That's why I looked at her.
yeah. I like the idea a lot.
So, kind of feeling good, go ahead and start the process, see if there's a teacher that's interested and. Cool. Cool.
Do you have anything to add, Mr. Baker, about it, how you see it?
No, other than, me and Mr. Taylor have talked, and Burlington actually did a STEM position. I thought it was really good. We've had some success with that.
And that you have the space for it?
Yeah, we would have a space for it, and I kind of like you said, there's just so much minutes. We do science, of course, but
Yeah,
there's
right.
just if we had somebody that's dedicated,
Yeah.
I think the added bonus of having that counselor free up, I mean, it is just part of it.
Yeah.
To get them out of rotation is going to do a lot for kids. So I think you can get some science curriculum. I think you can get a counselor out that can still get social emotional stuff in classrooms. They can do a 20-minute, you're on a weekly rotation. So they'll still do that, but they're available to be with kids.
Right.
So
Yes.
I think it's all
So needed.
And I have seen it where that teacher becomes a resource.
Oh, yeah.
A regular classroom teacher also.
Oh,
Any other discussion? We are moving on.
Thank
to
you.
Discussion of the advertising campaign.
I did put together a little something for you. You probably noticed that the people who were here earlier heard me say we killed a tree today, but I printed information from each of the companies that we've worked with on advertising for you. And I did put together a little something to organize our thoughts. Cameron, how do I do this? Or I go up there?
Share your screen, I'm gonna email you the link right now.
How do I do that?
He's gonna email you the link.
Okay, awesome. Just to organize us, because I'll admit, we were sitting together and we were kind of planning for this, the team of us here, and I realized if we just kind of jump in and just, okay, what do we want to talk about? That's gonna be really difficult to organize, so we thought of just organizing it just a little bit here, to kind of help us have a plan. So a lot of that starts with, examining our current reality with advertising and what we have. So we've had an agreement with the Iowa Media Network for, since before I came here. We adjusted that a little bit, second year, I think it was last year, in terms of the amount of money and the amount of service that we are purchasing. I'm getting in here. Won't make case twice on here. That wouldn't be fair to anybody. Okay. All right. Let me share. There we go, that went up there for us. So, just talking about current reality, Iowa Media Network, we've been working with them. They did a series of testimonial ads for us this February. You see some Facebook posts from those. I'm gonna show you just a couple of them here. They blasted this, and I am not a great social media person, but I will tell you, I have heard from some students that they saw our ads on TikTok. Recently heard from an adult that they saw one of our ads on TikTok too. Yeah. Facebook, obviously, which I'm a millennial, so that's kind of where I see stuff. And Twitter or X, depending on what you want to call it. And then the bottom third ads, which airs, so when the Go Pitch does their morning show, or when they do a ball game, they'll air this little area down here you can see is our bottom third ad. So just an example of one of these ads for you. I won't play three, I'll just play one. And I hope it does well on here.
My family moved here from Arkansas, and we chose Centerville over other schools in the area for its outstanding facilities and opportunities. The local media coverage allows my kids to be recognized at the next level, and our family across the country can get to make this difference.
they actually did, I think it was 23 ads total like that. That was Brandy Hampton, who is a parent of Eli Hampton and Tebow Hampton, two boys in our district. Moved here in time for their, I think their oldest son's freshman year, I want to say. Really great supporter on the boosters and everything. We have some student ads. I can't get you out of here without letting you see a student ad. I'll turn it so you can hear it better.
Art is one of the ways I express who I am. At Centerville, I have the freedom to be creative, try new techniques, and utilize the arts. The support from my teachers and the opportunities in the art program have given me the confidence to share my work with others. Through art classes, I have discovered career opportunities I wouldn't have otherwise known about, and my teacher is helping me learn more about how I can pursue those careers.
It doesn't look choppy on the actual ad, it just does when I share to Zoom, so sorry about that. They shared with us some analytics, and there was a packet that kind of came to you on how that is doing. It should be paper put together. Oh, I'm sorry, it's stapled together. So it says analytics for February 1 through March 1 is what's on there. So just a little email there about some of the things that they're working on for us from AJ, forwarded to you here. And then page 2 has the analytics on just what our advertising reached, February 1 to March 1. And, you know, I don't want to read everything to you, but for those playing along at home, I want to make sure they get a little bit of information. So our ads received 528,763 views, 413,082 minutes of views, 61,626 individual people reached. The views, to get a view, a video has to play for 10 seconds, for more than 10 seconds by somebody. So I guess prior to that, Kevin talked to the last meeting about that. It doesn't count if it doesn't go long enough, and I think that's probably a little bit of that. So they've got it broken down by age and gender here, kind of showing where they put some of our stuff on the newspaper and everything. There's a second page of analytics there just on the testimonials, and these were shared, it says, by TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram stories, which I have no clue on Instagram stories, but I think that's a lot of pictures, I think. Sorry, just a little fun with it. But again, it's the testimonial ads that went out there, some of the banner ads. You've got that broken down one more time by gender and age, which seems to be a big thing in advertising, because you'll see that with our Tumwater Radio information too. And then the last few pages in that packet are just some pictures of some of the ads that they posted on Facebook, so you can kind of see what that looked like. Pretty decent engagement on there on some of them, at least in terms of views, which is a nice thing. But that kind of gives you an idea of our current efforts with Iowa Media Network. We also had an effort with the Tumwater Radio through the open enrollment period, and that packet has the little binder clip. So some of the engagement information on that. We could skip this part for now. This is the engagement from theirs. So it's got the graphs. So it looks like theirs is laid out just a little differently. So again, 5,783 is the reach on that, 10,181 impressions. I'm not sure what makes the difference between a reach and an impression, to be honest with you.
An impression, a reach is when somebody actually looks at an impression that you're going through your feed and you scroll by it and it just even flashes by. It's just an impression.
Yeah. You should have one that's like this attached to it.
Yep.
Say that again, Kevin, I'm sorry.
My understanding too is the reach is if somebody stops and looks at it, but like on Facebook, an impression, if you're going through your feed, you just scroll by it and you see it. You don't stop and look at it, you just keep scrolling. That's still an impression because it flashed in front of you. And if AJ's probably listening, he'll probably correct me if I'm wrong, so.
Fair enough.
I'm sure I'll get a text in a minute.
Yeah. So on their second page there from Ottumwa Radio, we did get some information on Facebook versus Instagram. Their scale there is, on one side it says up to 5,000. I think that's for the dark blue or purple, whatever that might be. I might be slightly colorblind, I guess. The other side is the 10,000 is for the light blue, I believe. Or maybe I'm backwards, actually, it looks like.
I don't see likes or shares of those posts on there.
I don't know that we've got that on either of them, to be honest with you.
Because there was like one on all of them.
Oh, you mean just from anecdotally seeing? I thought
Yes.
you meant in the info, sorry.
No, I mean.
Sorry.
Yeah, they didn't interrupt that out.
Their third page breaks down the age and gender as well, just like what we kind of saw on the other one. And I don't know why it did twice on the data for some of that on there. This is the packet we got. There is, if you get a little bit down the line, there's a page that looks like this. It shows like a number of different ways that people were reached. It looks like we've got some audience, more audience of Facebook and Instagram, very little with the other areas that they listed. But I don't know much about that. Let's see. Age and gender distribution once again, and then total reach is that last page. So just to kind of give you an idea of how our current advertising is reaching people, the attachment from Ottumwa Radio there on the radio and digital is some of the radio and digital options that they have available and that they can help with. I know it was communicated with me by Iowa Media Network that they can help with some, and it might be worth finding out all the area companies that can do that if the board would decide to do additional advertising beyond what we're doing now, just to kind of get some ideas. I would recommend that we talk a little bit about our purpose behind advertising, because I think when you talk about how you want to advertise, if you're going to spend money to advertise, you want to know who it is you want to reach. And so I think it would be wise if we could talk about that a little bit, maybe.
I think for me, that's a big factor in me making the decision is what's our purpose of advertising? What are we wanting to get out of it? And I know the short answer is more students, right? Most likely, I'm assuming, but I don't know, I guess
If I'm a parent, and I'm just we're gonna shoot from the hip. If I'm a parent and I just get constantly here, brought to you by Centerville Community Schools, or this or that, that's not gonna make me, that's not gonna say, oh my God, I think I'm gonna move my kid to this school today. If I'm thinking of moving my child, that bus is already in motion. I have no problem spending money, as I've said multiple times, when it's for our students, for technology, for our staff. To just go out and just do a blind campaign is irresponsible. We have very talented students within our district. We have a very talented business in our community. Why don't we let our students tell the story? They know this stuff better than any of us in this room. Why couldn't that be part of, a marketing class? I mean, I think we can throw money at it, but okay, we want 5 students. How are we gonna gauge that $12,000 got us, or whatever we determine to do, got us those students? In the last meeting, the conversation was the majority of open enrollment now had never set foot in our district because parents went to this school, that school, whatever, they work here. Okay, then that doesn't really, then in my impression, we don't have that big of a problem with new open enrollment out, other than those that are just certain disciplinary issues. If I'm wrong on that, please correct me. So I think we're trying to just throw something at a wall to stick, and we really don't know what the hell we want to do.
I was kind of looking through on the pitch here, who was listening to this? And it looks like women are the ones who listen the most. Like age 35 to 44, 27% of the audience was that age of women, and then you go down and the other ages, and it's still women are listening a lot more than men. And they may be the ones that are making the decision of where their student is gonna go to school. I'm not saying men don't make that decision, of course they do.
They're probably starting the conversation, I agree.
Yeah.
I just phrase it a little bit different, but I generally agree with you.
Yeah, I think they do.
Yeah, I would argue that the students are some of the ones that are making that.
Well, that could be.
Conversation. And if we're going to push that effort, that's where we need to reach them where they are.
Yeah, and see, that group was not included too much on the younger.
Usually the demographics don't include the
Right.
Well, if you look at both, if you look at both of the analytics from the Iowa Media Network and Tomo Radio Group, so the age and gender distribution for Tomo Radio Group, the highest thing is men.
Yeah.
They're listening to the radio, where the women are on Facebook.
That's what the demographics in
That's what that is.
in this says.
And we ask the kids what they listen to.
I can tell you what the kids listen to, streaming. If they're listening to music, they're streaming. If they're doing something else, they're scrolling something.
And if you're hearing something on the radio, you're hearing it in that moment. Granted, it would be run multiple times, but, I'm gonna hear it one time in the car today. But if I'm on Facebook or TikTok or whatever, and it has links and all these things, I can revisit it, I can go to the links, it can take me to all these other places to get more information than just 30 seconds of.
From a business perspective, and I know Kevin, you mentioned it a lot too, front of mind. I mean, every year in my business plan at work, that's what I lead into. I want repetition, I want it out there, I want it out there, I want it out there. And in some aspects, we do have to think of the district as a business. That is our job, it's not the fun part of it, quite frankly. But at the same time, it's a little bit different than trying to get my name out there for financial needs versus trying to sell our story. And if we're doing things that are selling our story, that's fine, but just brought to you by Centerville Community School District, or just the generics, I'm not in favor of it all. I mean, we've got to sell our successes. Elementary science, okay, that's something we get out there, we put out there, but
What's our current financial contract with the Iowa Media Network?
So it is yearly, and I got that from Lisa. 1,400.
And I think it's just 9 months, actually.
So while school's in session?
Yeah, I believe so, but I have to make sure.
So it's 1,400 just while school's in session?
I believe so.
Sorry, if I go to it, then my email will be on the meeting that I'm sharing, so.
So that's about roughly $14,000.
I got nothing to hide, but.
Okay.
So Derek, is this proper to interpret your comments that you're inclined to do local, like the pitch stuff versus the Tomo Radio? Or you wanted our kids to do it?
Either or. I mean, I think we need to figure out what we want to do, and rather than getting another partner, okay, we know we want to do social, TikTok, this and that. Let's use what we're paying for right now through Iowa Media Network. And if we need to add that other vendor, add that other party, we can. But I'm afraid we get too many hands in the mix, then the number one, that can potentially risk our reputation and our brand.
If the advertising campaign, if we decided to use 2 vendors, what I'm hearing you say, and I agree 100%, is that advertising campaign would have to be very coordinated.
Yes.
So that both groups would kept telling the same message.
Because that, the open enrollment, I'll be honest, what was put out there on Facebook, our ad versus other schools, from Tomo Radio, night and day difference. One looked well put together, ours, in my opinion, you don't want to see me play with Microsoft Paint or PowerPoint, but it did not reflect the brand. And I think that's something this group needs to come together with, and we need to get people smarter than us and then run the market.
We all need to be using the same kind of branding. It can't be, the Indian can't look this way on one and this way on the other. And
I mean, we need to go down to determining a district font.
Yeah.
If you want to go macro level with it,
So I will tell you, I've reached out to a few branding companies to try to get a branding guide for our district. I worked with one when I was in Burlington. Unfortunately, each company has turned me down so far because they don't want to have anything to do with an Indian themed logo.
yeah, that's a fight for them.
Yeah, so I'm still on the hunt for a company. And I do have a lead that I got at one point that I need to follow up on, but we had even with ours, there was, in Burlington, it was purple and gray. There was a purple you're gonna use, there's a gray you're gonna use on things, just like we've done. Aaron has done a really nice job of solidifying the paint colors that we use in our buildings. There is a white that's used, so you're not gonna run into 3 different whites down the hallway and it looks tacky. Using those same RGB codes for the colors that we use on web and print, our logos, our fonts, all that stuff.
We can't use our local talent for that,
We might need to. That's probably a place we could go. And I bet I could probably reach out to some of our current vendors and.
Because we have, people, our local talent, they're invested in us.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
So Derek, what you're talking about is called omni-marketing, that's the term for it, where everything across all your advertising platforms are the same. So it's an omni-marketing, so if you Google that, omni-marketing is kind of the concept that you're looking for.
I'm glad we have a couple board members that have been involved in this.
We've got a few, I think, a few were advertised.
Yeah. Because if we're gonna push it, we're gonna promote it, we wanna do it right. And we don't want it to look sloppy.
Yeah.
Because then it's just like, oh, you ever send an email, oh my God, I can't believe I misspelled that,
Sure.
something silly like that, but,
From what I hear is we need to be consistent. We need to get some help figuring out what that consistency would look like. We're not just gonna throw something out there and another one brought to you by Centerville Community Schools. But I think the whole point of it for me, okay, was that we're in a fight.
Yes.
We're in a fight for bodies, okay? Like it or not, we didn't used to have to be that way. Our borders were defined, we had every kid in there. And now we've got open enrollment and school vouchers and all kinds of things that we're competing with. And that is a whole new thing for us to think about.
And I'll play devil's advocate on this one, just because it was a conversation that happened at work this morning from a parent outside of our district. And the comment was, if you guys get in on this push and, really focus in on this, and right, wrong, or indifferent, can kind of turn us into that David and Goliath situation where we look like we're purposely trying to knock out the small one, which is not the case.
It's not a good thing.
But just perception is reality, so that's something we really need to be cognizant of as well.
Right, we need to be the benevolent.
Yes.
Okay.
But then, I wouldn't have thought of that, a few weeks ago, I'm sitting here, the hell with everybody, we need to protect our kids, our constituents, and had a lot of conversations that have kind of changed some viewpoints on things over the past few weeks, so
And
just
sure,
throwing that out there.
you're exactly right. We have to come across as the sort of, I would call it the benevolent one. We are different. We do offer many, many opportunities that the other districts don't. And as, from my perspective, this is just me, we need to promote those differences. Not that we're brought to you by Centerville Community School District, but that we give away $35,000 in scholarships. We do have trap shooting and golf, and we do have all of those activities that your kid will fit into. And the people that make those decisions are not gonna be those kids streaming TikTok and streaming their music. They might push the needle a little bit, but they're not gonna make that decision. And like Kevin said, mom's gonna make that decision.
But those kids are gonna be the one seeing that on the TikTok or on
Right.
Instagram, starting.
They're gonna bring it up.
If mom hears that we have esports, is that gonna mean anything to her? Whereas the student that's like, oh my God, Centerville has esports?
Well, it's both. I think you gotta talk to both.
Yeah.
Right, because esports, I think, is an underappreciated activity. And I know when we started, well, there's 3 of us on board, when we started talking about esports, all of us were just like, what is it, why in the world would we spend money on gaming? Right, but I think we've all come around to understand it, so I'm not sure that esports is truly understood, so there's some things I think.
But you know what I mean,
Yeah.
just, you know, something that, you know, a kid may be.
But a kid might bring it up and say.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
So that's why you gotta reach the kid, and yeah, I think mom may or may not be the decision maker, but she probably will start the family discussion most likely.
Right.
So, yeah.
And it's,
Yeah.
go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, I would say, and I don't always remember everything correctly, but Mark, I think if you go back, and if you reached out to AJ, I think AJ put together a marketing guide for us many years ago.
Okay. Thank you, that'd be good.
Yes.
And there's lots of things that we can promote, okay? One of the first things I would promote is that trap shooting is a lifelong sport. Bowling is a lifelong sport.
Esports is.
Football ended the last day you turned in your cleats. Okay, it's just a memory. Whereas we have golf and we have many, many other sports and activities that will become lifelong things.
Like, you know, we talk about benevolence, but we can be benevolent, but if we keep losing and losing students, we can't be benevolent. We need our share of students here. So everyone that we can get, that 7,800, helps us keep the teachers and the coaches and that. So we have to have that.
I do want to be fair, almost every district in the area, I think, lose students this year.
Yes.
So it's not necessarily like a Centerville problem, it's a southern Iowa, it's a rural Iowa, it's rural America.
And Iowa is not gaining population, we are losing population.
In terms of
We're not
something
gaining
that,
much.
some next steps that I've talked with AJ about on our Iowa Media Network advertising, we want to start moving into the realm of some of the testimonials on our academic work.
Yeah.
Admittedly, people get more excited about activities a lot of times, but we have a lot of good stuff happening academically. And we want to talk about the fact that if you go into 7th grade math and you have that 7th grade math teacher who can focus on the standards for 7th grade math. Then you go to a new person who can focus on the standards for 8th grade math. Then you go to a new person who can focus on the standards for 9th grade math. Whereas in a lot of other smaller districts, you have a 7-12 math teacher who has to know all those standards. And as a result, it is oftentimes, not always, it can often be a little bit less deep on those standards. So this allows our teachers to be specialists and allows them to teach at a little higher level for college preparedness. So I think that's the kind of thing that we want to, I don't want to denigrate any others like that, really don't want it to become like political ads.
Right.
And I never want to have to say, I'm Mark Taylor and I approve this message. Ever in my life do I want to do that.
Well, and
But-
I know, with the push towards the deadline, even with the Go Pitches testimonials, I had seen some comments, like, oh my God, is it election season or something, because it was just, I mean, they were awesome, but yeah, they were out there. And, because otherwise you start seeing it so much, then you're just gonna tune it out. And you're gonna hide that ad and, don't show me this again.
I think we're not ready to make a decision about anything, okay? I think we need a lot, I mean, that's just my opinion, that we need more information. We need a better idea about what our message should be. And I don't think this group knows all the advantages that Centerville has. I think we need to ask all of our staff, what are the advantages of being here?
I think we need someone to guide us, someone that's been through this decision, how to make this decision before, and we need kind of an expert, so to speak.
Well, the ASB, have anybody?
Yeah, I can ask.
And a list of bullet points of we need this and this and this and this.
I will say, you know, this is kind of a weird thing, and I've talked to other superintendents that are kind of going through some similar conversations in their districts, and, you know, that we definitely in superintendent school and principal school didn't get anything on advertising, I'll be honest about that. This is a wholly new thing, in public schooling. Because it used to be, in most areas, you wouldn't advertise to try to steal somebody else's kids. We had one district in this area who, when I was a teacher here, would put ads in our paper to try to steal kids away through open enrollment. But generally, the idea was you're a good neighbor to your neighbors and you don't try to steal theirs, they don't steal yours. And then the whole thing happened where you had private schools that were advertising pretty heavily in some of the bigger areas, and that started to spread out to more rural areas. And this has really hit our state pretty hard. And with the vouchers, the private schools now get 11,000 something per student in 2 of the dioceses in the state. So they increased their tuition to be $4,000 above what the public schools get per student. So they now have $4,000 extra dollars to advertise to steal more kids to have a larger increase. So this is increasing in our state. I know IASB has done some wrestling with this. I don't know that they have an expert on this issue because I think it's so new to schools to be dealing with this, but I can reach out and find out who they've got and if they can workshop this with us.
I'm gonna throw it out there, I guess. I think one of the things that we're talking about, we wanna get students in, right? But I think we're forgetting we wanna keep our students.
Yes.
That's one thing I think we're forgetting to say, and I think, I'll throw it out there right now. We have a 100% better chance of doing that by going with Iowa Media Network than anyone else. 100%.
They do give our students the opportunity to work sidelines, work cameras,
Yep.
you know, that.
And I think if we were to, I think we can tweak what we want from our contract that we're paying for. I think right there's our answer. I think the highlights were incredibly huge, the showcases, things like that. You know, the more programs and whether it's, you know, sports, academics, extracurricular, whatever it is, the more we can showcase like that, the better we're gonna be for our district in keeping our students. You know?
I agree. And they know what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, they're part of it.
Yep.
I would agree with that to a point. And I certainly don't want anyone to take this the wrong way. But Iowa Media Network is a relatively newcomer to this game. And I don't think they have the experience and maybe even the expertise that we should take advantage of.
I guess I'll disagree on that one wholeheartedly. I think we have, all the people that work there are alumni of our school system, and so they have the expertise of being a Centerville school student in our district. We have 1 or 2 of the guys that basically started this whole trend in the state of Iowa right here doing it. He's, you know, quite right to shout, AJ, you're getting a shout out. He started this whole process of what other districts around the state are trying to do, and they can't do what the Iowa Media Network does. 100%. Now, you throw in the part about having one of our ex-teachers there that was an art teacher. You throw that into the mix. I mean, to me, there's nothing but benefits from tweaking our contract and tweaking what we want with Iowa Media Network. There's nothing but benefits from that. And we won't get that sort of dedication, that sort of, I guess, down home, this is what we are, from anywhere else.
So let me throw a little angle in this to consider. Part of the advertising is not new versus old, experienced, inexperienced, alumni, non-alumni. It's what advertising platform you want to be on. And you want to be on the platform that connects with people, because there are certain platforms that you're gonna go out there and you're just not gonna connect with people. So an example from years ago when we had the Iowa Legion in there, I can tell you from going to trade shows where there were 4,000 appliance dealers across the country, nobody was doing newspaper ads. I was, because it worked here. It was outside of the trend, and people couldn't believe, I would say, how effective those ads were. Because that was not the trend. Some of those trends, in markets, it was all digital. Some markets, it was other things. So you gotta look at what is your target audience gonna respond to? And that's something to really look at. And then, you know, as the trends have evolved over time, you used to see on websites banner ads. Well, that just became background noise like classified ads. People didn't see it, you gloss over it. You know, when it was new, you looked at it. So when people start to gloss over that, what's the next way to get your attention? Well, adding motion. And so now they started, this was years ago, they started using some motion to try and get your eye to go over and look at that. Well, that's kind of, everybody's gotten used to it, and so what is it now? It's things like over the top. It's the pre-rolls. Because more and more and more people are streaming than they are having a cable or whatever. I bet you if you go around here, everybody's got a subscription to a streaming service, except for me, I have 0 subscriptions. But just about everybody has that. I watch YouTube. I got different things I watch there. So I'm still in that over the top deal. And so I think that's what we really need to sit here and say is, what is the goal of advertising? Who do we want to reach? And what are they watching? I will tell you, I had somebody come in to my store years ago and asked when I started selling appliances. They lived in, I'm sorry, Lisa, Moulton for 14 years and didn't know there was an appliance store in Centerville. And they came to the store all the time. I had somebody come in after we started doing furniture and said, when did you start selling furniture? It'd been like 6 years. And I was just like, I said to myself, about $300,000 of advertising ago. And so you can spend so much money, but there are some people you're just not gonna reach. So the question is, in spending your money, how are you gonna reach the most people and specifically targeting on those that you're looking for? So, we're in the age of pre-roll. And that's where a lot of those ads are coming, because anything, you know, who even goes to a lot of websites other than on a phone or a laptop or something like that. A lot of people aren't doing that. This is where they're going to. They're going to the TikTok, they're going to all that kind of stuff. So you really have to evolve your advertising program as the trends change. So that's the first question to ask. Where is that gonna go? And my opinion is pre-roll. So the question then becomes, who can do it? And if AJ and those guys can do it, great. I don't know how long the Tunnel Radio's been doing it. I don't. But I know that that is a primary way that could get your message out to people right now. And because some of that stuff is just kind of going passe. I mean, how many people are going through Facebook and you just go like this and not even look at it? You know, because it's so inundated with ads. You know? So I think there's some things to think about, and the question is, who do we want to reach? What are they paying attention to? And then who can provide that connection?
You're absolutely right. Joyce and I went on a cruise last week, and I took the book by Chuck Underwood. We saw him 2 years ago. He was a keynote speaker about generations. That book is about that thick. I read it again, and there is so much in there that I don't think about. But I'm gonna have to think about that. And we're gonna have to find someone who understands his research in order to reach the group we want and the method they use. I don't know who that is.
I think, sorry, Tim, I didn't know if you were here. What if we, I guess, put out a request for proposal, bring the companies in that want to say, hey, this is what I can offer, and this is how I'm gonna do it. We don't have to have necessarily the content yet, but this is what I am capable of doing. I mean,
It's an RFP.
yep, yep.
I think that's a good idea.
I mean, basically, they have to sell themselves to us. They
And
can
convince us they know what they're doing.
Yep.
I like that idea. Tim, you haven't said much.
Taking in a lot of this, but I just never would have dreamed that we'd be discuss marketing like this. I mean, 4 years ago, look how much stuff's changed. And I do agree with that, we need to keep who is here, we want them to stay here. So we do have to get the message out. But I think there's been some culture change in the school in the last few years, clearly, I've seen it. So maybe some of the root cause of why would somebody leave? I don't know, maybe some of that needs to be investigated a little further. Some of it is a parent that works somewhere, but some of them aren't, so.
Yeah, I think you're right. We'll probably see a lot less leaving, because we've seen a lot of improvements happening and a lot of good things going on.
But your story does need to be told.
Yeah, you're right. So, frankly, I think this is a lot like mutually assured destruction. So it's like everybody's got a mute button, right? And right now, everybody's pressing the mute button. I wish, if I had a dream and I could wave a magic wand, it'd be that the legislature would ban for all public and non-public schools could not advertise. That would be my dream. Then nobody would have mutually assured destruction. We'd have nuclear non-proliferation. That would be beautiful. And we can go back to a realm of it is what it is. But that's probably not gonna happen.
Probably not.
If I'm ever gonna be quoted as a member, I
So I guess, looking back at what's the purpose of our advertising? What is the purpose of it? Whenever, I guess, I brought that up at the last board meeting, and I don't think we've necessarily nailed that down in this work session.
Right. I personally think it has to be at least 2 or 3 things. And it falls back to that old adage, you have to tell your own story or somebody will tell it for you. And, bad news always travels a lot faster than the good news. And so I think, we need to assure parents, our parents, that we're doing a good job. And some of our taxpayers, that we are spending their money wisely.
I think I could sum it up pretty simple. We need to tell our story. We're not trying to sell anything. We're not trying to poach. We tell the story, you want it, awesome. That's great.
I like that.
So I tend to do things in threes, groups of threes is always a good methodology. We have better facilities, better academics, better activities. Something like that. So the question is, why come to Centerville, or why stay? There you go. Better principles.
Yeah, there you go, principles.
They're not even paying attention. I should give you a shout out of love.
I heard it. We just, even if you look at the activity board up there and you count all of those, I don't know how many are up
Well,
there.
I need to update it.
A lot.
Sorry.
And if you said, we have 42 opportunities for you to be involved, or whatever, I think a number
Yeah.
speaks.
Well, that's kind of what you've been saying, numbers.
We have to get some numbers out there to differentiate ourselves, because almost 99% of the time, people evaluate something based on a number. It's bigger, it's better, it's faster.
When a person wants, a parent wants their child to go to the school, how do they figure that out? They talk to other parents, they talk to other kids. That's how, if this was a business, and it is a business, that's how they get the information, a lot of times. So that's why
after.
It's called word of mouth.
Word of mouth.
Best advertising.
I was in business a long time, and that's where most
But
things.
you look at these activities, and we talk, telling our story and more activities. Let's have those sponsors write a 4 or 5 paragraph article that'll get shared online and published in the Appaloosa Weekly. And it just goes back to telling our stories.
Share the good.
Mhm.
And you know another thing, since we're
Strong.
talking about this.
That's what it-
You know how one of the things that smaller districts will do is they'll pull out their test scores. I can't remember how this is gonna go, but you'll know once I start.
Yeah, I think I get where you're.
And then they don't even have to report out stuff like we do. So one of the messages that gets out there is, oh, well, you know, we have this and this and this score. Well, it's not, you know, it's apples and oranges.
Because the subgroup's too small, that's what you're talking about, yeah.
Yes. Can you explain that a little
Yeah,
bit?
so like, we report on like our special ed subgroup, so if our special education students aren't proficient, that shows up on our school report card. Well, by definition, in Iowa, you have to have a discrepancy from your peers to have an IEP. So if you don't have a discrepancy, you'll be exited from your IEP, which Julie leads people and doing a wonderful job to make sure happens in our district. Because we have enough special needs students in a grade, for example, that it reaches a certain threshold with the state, we have to report on that, and we can be dinged, and that's the only time, the only places we really get dinged. We don't get dinged on our free and reduced lunch rate students, it's just on our special needs students and proficiency on the school report card. So actually, we have great outcomes for low-income students in our district. When compared with the state averages, we actually do quite well in that area. So income has a smaller impact. While we don't have a great deal of diversity, race has a very small impact in our district as well, which is different than a lot of districts in the state. But the one that stands out is special education, it's just because we hit the threshold of where you have to report it. So every school that has that number of IEPs in a grade level will be dinged for that, and that's just kind of inevitable. We do hit the growth marker sometimes, and that can kind of help us on some grades, like for example, Lakeview is off the naughty list because actually we saw extreme growth for our students with IEPs on the testing period that was last used to make the school report card. But it doesn't account for severe and profound. So if you have a student who's severe and profound disabled, that student will still count. I hate to say against your scores for that, which just feels like dirty to say that. You know, I'm glad that we're educating that child and doing good things for that child.
I mean, we're the ones that are doing it.
Yeah.
Right.
But
The
if you
voucher
don't-
schools aren't doing it.
But if you
you know.
don't have to report, like a lot of surrounding districts because of their numbers, then it
Then it doesn't
skews
count.
their
Yeah.
test scores. And it makes it look like, oh, they're here when we're here, when in fact.
So if one of the three is the better academics, then you take and turn that into a positive statement.
Well, and that's,
This is what we're doing for kids that need help. Does your kid need help? We have all these services.
Right,
You
yeah.
turn that into a benefit.
yes. Because I think, you know, just like you see with everything, the politicians are really good at this. If there's a statistic, you can find some way to make it tell the story you want it to tell, and that's the problem.
76% of statistics are made up on the fly anyway.
I've heard that one.
Are you gonna have
And there is one more group that we haven't talked about, and that would be people that are thinking of moving to this area. And so part of our plan has to provide information to help those people decide to move here. That might be a pretty small number, but, you know, if somebody moves in with 4 kids, we just hit the jackpot.
So I think something with that, that's where you tap into the local real estate community. And even PAC, you know, I believe they're getting years ago, they used to have welcome light. When somebody new would move to town, we have information on the businesses and, you know, insurance, whatever it may be. So, you know, if somebody's gonna move here, you know, yeah, they may buy them right on the outlier, but, you know, we get ahead of it, get some of that information.
Yeah.
You know, that way we're targeting in, we're not just throwing stuff out there for the wind to catch. But if somebody's already talking to somebody in the area, that real estate agent could be our best friend.
That's right. That's a good point.
Or if they're trying to get, you know, a new business to come, and if we have this media guide or whatever we do, we have that available. We have,
part of that enticing process.
With PACT and your local real estate community, that could be huge partnerships to capture those potentially coming into the area, making ourselves stand out.
I know some of us go to other meetings once in a while, and you know, there's a lot going on. The supervisors meeting right now, the Honey Creek thing and all that, you know, you know, we gotta realize, and I think we do realize, our economy, you know, we have farming, we have industry, and we have recreation. And people come here for recreation. And so we need people that like that kind of recreation. Maybe their job, they can do it from home and things like that. We can get those people here, that helps.
We have seen a lot of that in recent years.
Oh, yeah, a lot of 2020 and 2022.
Anything else? I would like to move to discussion of the athletic sharing agreement. I think we got some folks here ready for that.
Very patient.
Mr. Taylor.
I did make up a little one-pager for you. It's this two-sided thing, and I apologize. I was gonna make it 2 separate pages, so you wouldn't have to figure out which one's the front. But the front is the page that shows our current year agreements. And so, I worked with Mr. Johnston, and Mr. Johnston is gonna kind of join in on some of this conversation with us, just because he's got the perspective of actually running the programs, so I think that helps us some. But these are the current agreements that we have right now. We currently share boys and girls swimming. That is a 2024 through 2029 deal with Albia, Moravia, and Seymour that was approved this fall. Boys and girls golf, 24 through 2029 with Moulton, and then approved for this year only with Seymour. Boys and girls soccer, 2024 through 2029 for Moulton, Moravia, and Seymour. Football with Moulton, 2024 through 2029, and a current year only for trap shooting, approved this spring for Seymour after we found out we didn't have an agreement in place. So that kind of gives you an idea of where we are. The good news is, Jared and I believe that we've caught all the ones where we were sharing without an agreement in place. There was a big concern around that from a liability standpoint. Not so sure that students traveling with us or involved in our activities, had we not put a sharing agreement in place, would have been covered by our insurance potentially, because they would have not been our student at that point. So having those agreements in place helps cover the district, helps cover the coaches, helps cover the students. So really glad that we've got all those caught up. We don't believe anybody's hanging out in the woodworks that we don't know about anymore. You have a number of options that you can do with these agreements, and any other agreements that we would look to have. You could maintain current contracts and not renew expiring contracts. You could maintain current contracts and renew expiring contracts. You could cancel current contracts and put in place new contracts with paid component. Now, I will tell you, at 11:59 last night, I received an email from the lawyer. So the information on the back of pay per player, I'll tweak that a little bit when we get there, because she is advising that we charge districts slightly differently, because she feels that it's iffy in the code to charge per player. She recommends just charging a flat fee to a district to be involved, so that there's no question about that cost being pushed on, that another district might push that cost onto the student. She just says that opens us up for potential trouble. Not saying that I think anybody would. I'm close with each of the superintendents in the area, and I know they wouldn't do that. But you never know if you get a bad actor in the future, how they might behave. So she recommends keeping ourselves clean on that. A couple notes for you to know. Current football classifications are based on continuing the sharing with Moulton Udell, so they set those districts for a couple years at a time. You'll notice that's why we don't know homecoming yet, because we just got our districts. And
fingers crossed in the next couple weeks, we'll have our full schedule and know when homecoming is.
So where are we in that process right now? Can you explain that process?
Yeah, so first of all, for speaking to this sharing agreement specifically, though the state has it included in the classification, it had zero impact on our classification. So if we dropped Moulton off, we would have still been in the same class. So it didn't affect our classification, but they're on there for the next 2 years if they continue on with that agreement. In the classification process, the state released the districts about 2.5, 3 weeks ago now. Last Friday was the deadline for everybody to submit their non-district opponent preference list, and so hopefully in the next few weeks they'll piece together and send out everyone's schedules for the next 2 years.
Football's a little weird. I don't know if you remember a couple of years back, they decided to start a count. They have a, like a, I don't know, multiplier, a divisor that they use based on poverty in your district to try to account for that. It was something, there was kind of a push. I think some Des Moines media even had maybe started some of the push. That Sound Off guy was pretty big on that. And
I think the old Iowa City football coach
also was a big part of that, yeah. So that really took off, and they decided to pursue that. And I think it's been good for competition, but I will tell you it has been a bit of a challenge for travel. There's certainly more travel for the districts over there, and every 2 years you wait forever to find out what your district is, to be able to set homecoming. And here, we set homecoming early. That's a big deal.
Big
So,
stuff.
yeah. Because we got a lot of stuff to plan.
Oh, yeah. I got a couple calls a week, and I tell everybody,
Yeah.
as soon as we know, it'll be
I
everywhere,
cannot wait for
everywhere
that
we can
answer
put it out.
to be known. I'm so
It'll be
excited
on
about that.
Facebook, it'll be on GoPitch, it'll be everywhere.
Trying to plan their classroom movements.
Yeah, because you gotta get a place
You gotta
booked.
know.
That's the
Yeah.
problem right
But you know,
now.
when you don't know.
We're making progress, I think, though. So, anyway, I took, on the back side there, I just took a program, for example. Swimming came up as a program that we've discussed in the past. So, the cost for the coach per year, $2,179.20 for boys, and the same amount for girls. So, it's $4,358.40 for the coaching costs for that. Transportation to events, so you're paying gas, wear and tear on a vehicle. Entry fees, again, it varies based on how many events you go into. Equipment varies based on the year. So I just kind of put in, at this point I was thinking if we did $250 per student, and you had eight boys and 8 girls, you know, that would produce $2,000, that offset $4,000 of the costs. Since she's recommending, since Danielle said not to do it per pupil, she just said to negotiate an amount. And I printed off her letter, but she said to negotiate an amount just for their share of a program, if you do a shared program like that. So that is an option that you can do. You can charge a district to allow their students to participate, or not allow participation. All three are kind of options: not charging, and not allowing. Some things for you to consider: some sports need to charge more, and some sports need to charge less. For example, football has more paid coaches and very expensive safety equipment that you'll notice, like every other year or so, we do a transfer from the general fund for helmet replacement or refurbishment. So that you probably need to charge a little bit more than, say, swimming, which really, there's not a lot of equipment with that. Or maybe even trap, it sounds like, you know, a lot of their ammo is purchased individually, and some of their, I think their guns are purchased individually, so probably not as high of a cost on some of those things. For equipment, you know, we need to probably look at entry fees and look what that looks like, and coaching costs. Another consideration is the number of kids from each school can vary year over year. We talked a little bit about one sport having one kid from our district, but in the past it has predominantly been kids from our district. So, you know, that can change year to year. We could do a policy to divide the cost equally. To allow all schools to plan though, so that then a school would know, hey, we're in it for $1,500 to be a part of that program. That's what it's gonna cost us to be in that, or you know, $2,000, whatever it is. And then they can plan their budgets, because just like we are right now, trying to figure out how are we gonna make it work with less kids next year, they're all doing the same thing. How are they gonna make it work with less kids next year? A consideration that is wise for us is that some sports are a struggle to fill competitively at a 2A size. For example, sports that have less than 4 categories. So 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A, you've heard of that before. Soccer only has 2, am I right? I believe 2. Okay, so it's down at least 1 in soccer.
Yeah.
So we compete against Ottumwa as one of the schools we compete against. And swimming, we are the smallest school in the state, and it's a 1-class sport, so it's kind of hard to fill those competitively as a 2A district. So if we want wearing that Centerville uniform to to mean something and to be competitive, and to have a chance at winning. Sometimes in those sports, we may need to do some sharing, for the sake of our students as well. And access to facilities in the area could cause practice conflicts and some activities, and I put that down for swim and trap shooting is the two that I kind of thought would be the most likely to have challenges in our community with that, just because we have limited legal shooting locations. I think you gotta get out of town pretty far to, there's not a lot of ranges, I don't think. And swim, there are not a lot of pools that you can do that kind of swimming in. So those are factors that could impact our scheduling either way. But really, that's just kind of to give you the information and to guide the conversation. I mean, I'm comfortable going with what the board would like to do, but Jared and I just want to make sure you had information. And did you have some things to add?
Yeah, just kind of go on what Mark said. Both of us are comfortable with proceeding however you guys best see fit. Just some kind of added context for you guys. Based on the sharing agreements that are in place this year, we had 12 students from other districts come in. Like Mark said, numbers-wise, swimming every other year. It depends on the year. But boys traditionally up until this year, most of our team, about 7 or 8 boys a year, were from Centerville, just a lower year. There's a decent sized 8th grade class coming in, so that'll go back up a little bit next year. So 12 swimmers came in from Albion Moravia this year for swimming. There's interest from Davis County.
So can I go back? So
Yeah, sorry.
there's 12 that came into swimming, and we had how many internally?
1 and 1. So we had 10 girls came in, we had 1, and then 2 boys came in, we had 1. And then obviously from a competitive standpoint, that can't do a relay without 4. So it's nice to have the sharing agreements to hopefully get you to at least 4, so you can do individual races and some relays. Seymour didn't have any swimmers. I don't think they ever have based on my research. Boys and girls involved. There's no girls currently. I don't think there ever has been there. I believe there's 2 boys from Seymour participating in golf. Soccer, there's 4 boys, I think 2 from Moravia, 2 from Moulton playing this spring, helping us kind of coming back from a year where we were unable to have a team. Now we're talking about, can we add some JV games potentially, because we're in the mid to high 20s numbers wise there. So that's helpful there, just getting those extra bodies. Football, they had a couple kids on the team this last fall, and as they mentioned, they had 7 Seymour kids for trap shooting. Ultimately, you know, there's pros and cons to everything. I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think we're taking away any opportunities from our kids, which would be my priority number 1, is making sure that our Centerville kids have their opportunities and they take first priority. I don't believe, based on our current sharing agreements, we're taking away any opportunities from our kids. So I think there's a pro there. Like I said, it helps, I think, with swimming as far as trying to get us so we have enough kids to do relays and some of those other things. And a lot of those kids have swam together for years through the Y program all the way up. So like I said, there's a huge middle school group right now in that Y program that's going to feed into that swim program the next few years. It allows us to kind of have those points of pride like you guys are talking about during that advertising with things that we offer that other people don't, because you know, we're the only soccer program in Appomattox County. We're the only swim program really in southern Iowa. You have to go as far west as Indianola, as far east as Burlington and Keokuk, and all the way up to Grinnell and Williamsburg to find another swim program. Atumwa's the closest one, and that's about it. So that's kind of a point of pride for us, where there's really nowhere else for those kids to swim. So if we didn't have a program, none of those kids would be able to swim. So I think, like I said, overall it's good. You know, there's a lot of pros there, and the biggest thing is it helps us kind of build those relationships with those kids, because it kind of eliminates the rivalry, it eliminates the strangeness, and lets them build those relationships with kids from other schools that they're going to interact with as adults, and just be positive and productive.
A couple of missing.
Yeah.
On the trap shooting, how many CHS do we have
You guys
for
are
that program?
Between
7 from Seymour and 40 some.
It's high 40s.
40 plus.
Yeah, high 40s
Yeah.
between
40 plus.
Howland.
And then in soccer, I got that one. In golf, you said we have 2
2 boys.
2 boys, and how many do we have in our own fall, roughly?
Yeah, pull up the spreadsheet.
Yeah, you know, I love my spreadsheet. One it's like 10-ish.
10 plus?
Yeah.
Okay, that's all that's close enough for me to give it, thanks.
He's got a spreadsheet for all that, so.
It's
I'm just looking for
14
context,
14 boys right now from Centerville.
Okay.
That was soccer.
Golf.
Oh, 14 plus 2.
Yeah.
I'll start the conversation. I have no problem with the sharing agreements. I think that I would like to see districts help fund it, the sharing districts help fund it. My biggest thing is I do not agree, and I know there's some possible legal things there, but I do not agree that if you open enroll out of our district, you should not be able to participate in our extracurriculars. I'm dead set on that. But I have no problem with sharing with the other districts. Like I said,
Unfortunately, talking to
Right.
Danielle, the only way to do that is to not share.
Right, and
Otherwise, it's a discriminatory practice.
this is more, just personal.
I
I don't agree with it.
I just wanna make sure that
Yeah.
if we've paid the lawyer money, I better
Yeah.
share the information.
Personally,
Yeah.
I think it's completely wrong if you open and roll out of our district and wanna come back and use our activities. That's wrong to me. So, but as far as the sharing agreements, I'm completely good with them, but the districts have to help that.
You know, I am on board with the first part of what you said. I think they should, until I listen to the trap shooting. Can you please review those businesses in Seymour that are contributing to your club?
I sure can. This is just some. This is
Okay.
just the ones that were kind of off the top of my head. Young Trucking, AP Roll-Offs, Lock Ridge, Southern Iowa Gutters, and Duke Reynolds.
Are they doing like financial?
What are they? How are they
They
financing?
sponsor, some $250 range per year for a spot on the back of a t-shirt
Uh-huh.
that says that they sponsor us.
So they each
Where does
pay
that,
one?
where does that money go with?
To our, parent organization. So our parent organization does our fundraising, and that's why we don't have to ask you guys for funding, except for the bus and the driver.
And the entry fees, I believe.
So,
No,
I'm
no, sir,
sorry.
that is money that I get. You do not pay entry fees for our team.
See, I think that's fantastic. I mean, I would feel like it was wrong to say, okay, now you're doing all this to support our program monetarily already, you know, and so I don't feel like it's fair
But
to-
we have Centerville businesses that support our programs too, and we as a school still pay our share to make the programs happen.
We got the boosters and all that.
Yeah.
So a couple questions, is this, because I want to understand crap, and I've got some general comments on here. Is this like a sanctioned sport or is it a club?
It is not, can I answer that?
Yeah, please.
It is not an Iowa High School Athletic Association sanctioned
So
sport.
it's a club?
We are sanctioned by other governing bodies. The
Yep.
Scholastic Clay Target Program, which is a United States-wide program,
Okay.
and the SSSF, which is the Scholastic Shooting Sports Foundation, all of those, the ATA, we have other governing bodies that govern, that allow us to be
Sure, okay.
coaches. So we have training with those governing bodies, not with the Iowa High School Athletic Association.
Yeah, I'm going, I appreciate all that, I'm going somewhere else with it. So from our perspective, like when esports started, you have to start 3 years at club before you can become a sport?
That's what that's what we had in place, yes.
So from our standpoint, are they a sport or?
They've been around, trap shooting's been around for a long time.
16
Yeah.
years, I started at 16 years.
So they're not a
ago.
club status from a district standpoint?
Right, yeah, we would
Okay.
count them as a sport in
Okay,
our.
that's what I was
eyes.
going to, because my question is,
Yeah,
if they're a sport, why aren't we paying their entry fees like we do for everybody?
well, that's, yeah, we probably should be.
Yeah, that's where I'm going with that, we should be paying the entry fees, so if you're a
That'd be
sport.
great.
That's why I wanted to know, because there's a definition I wanted to get to on that.
So Kevin, can I interrupt?
Can I ask a question?
So
Yeah,
I
because I
guess,
got a bunch of stuff to go on.
so I guess, sorry, but this, to me, this opened up another
Yeah.
big door.
Yeah.
Is, yeah, it's our sport, we need to be paying the entry fees.
Yeah.
That's what we need to be doing. But on the flip side of that, it was my understanding, and not to take away from what you and your sponsors are doing, but all that money has to be going through the,
It doesn't come through the school.
it has to go through the school.
Yeah.
If it's for our sport.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or a booster club. Sorry.
It's the
Yes.
same thing as a booster.
We did that, but it has to be associated with, Lisa, am I
And so
correct?
since there's no gate,
Yeah.
like we won't have income for that program to,
Right, but I mean, if it's associated with our school,
Yeah.
we have to approve the fundraising,
Yeah.
and we have to, it has to go
That's
through our
Basically,
system.
basically just a pass-through.
Yeah, it's a pass-through, but it has to go through us.
It's a legal requirement for auditing for school districts.
yeah.
I have a question, you know.
Well, go ahead.
So it's a sport from our school, so that, you know, if we have someone that does that sport, you know, if they do football or track or whatever, they have to have courses and get a license to do
Yeah,
those
so
things.
because this technically wouldn't be IHS, this would be High School Sports Association, I don't know that they would necessarily need a coaching endorsement.
So you don't have to go get a coaching endorsement,
We have to
They
go
have
through
training.
rigorous training.
Yeah.
Our coaches go through rigorous training,
but not through
not through the
Iowa
Iowa High School
the high
Athletic
school.
Association.
That's fine.
It's done through the Iowa DNR.
And
Our training is done.
then you have to have background checks and all that too.
Yes.
Liz,
So
you
you're
brought
all
your
covered
background
with
checks
that.
for your assistant coaches to the
That's
district to
great.
do background check?
They have all, yes,
Okay.
every
Okay,
year.
so-
They're being fingerprinted every
Good,
year.
So let me go back. One, I think
So are we.
if you're considered a sport by the district, we should be paying the entry fees.
Yes,
So then the question is the funding that's being raised, is that a booster club money or is that a,
so it would probably be like the booster club, so that probably means we have certain things for the auditor that we need from them, don't we?
We already have expenses that come through, we purchase ammo to the school. I mean, we
Okay.
treat it like.
It's a resale.
It's a resale.
Right,
Our
but it
parents
comes,
pay
but it
for
comes through the district.
It still comes
Yeah.
through.
okay.
The parents
So you're
pay
okay
for
from
it.
an audit standpoint?
Well, no, not with that organization, because we don't have what we have for the boosters
Right.
for audits.
Okay.
So technically, that's an organization that shouldn't be raising for Centerville School District activities right now,
So we just need to
because we
sort
don't
that out.
have any of that information
Yeah,
with the
that needs to be
auditors.
sorted out.
So there's a sort out to keep everybody legal, but I think we should be, and that's my thing, that we should be paying those things. Then the other question I have is a school district allowed to buy ammunition?
No.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah, we do it
Yeah.
through resale, yeah, yes.
Okay. Because obviously with all
Yeah.
the context of all of it.
It's just like, it's treated a lot in the financial world, like reeds, valve oil and all that
Okay.
with musicians. So it's a consumable resource that you can do on resale.
Yeah.
And as a result, I believe we get a little bit of a discount for volume, right? Is that why they do it through us?
Yeah, I mean, I'm offered a discounted rate at the beginning of the year, no matter whether you write the check or I
Sure.
write the check.
Sure.
There's been years when I've written the check myself.
Okay. See, I'm in favor of sport trap, and I think, you know, good proper gun safety to be taught, and all those things that you guys do with it, I'm 100% behind it. I just want to make sure we're not doing anything that's going to violate an audit
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
anything illegally, and just so that we support you properly from that standpoint, and that we should be paying your entry fee. And hopefully that makes sense, I'm trying to help.
So
Not her.
who is the president of that, can you get us the information on the president of that organization so we can get the
I can email
paperwork?
it all to you.
That'd be
the
awesome.
board.
Then we can get it clean with the auditors.
It's
Sorry to
a
open up another door, but we have to
Yeah.
run that.
It's
Well-
a 503C.
That helps, actually,
Yeah.
that'll be good.
It's
Yeah.
a 503C.
So it's got like a board and
Believe
everything.
me, we've learned a lot in this whole process of keeping
Yeah.
things legal, so.
Yeah.
Thanks, Liz.
Yeah.
So in general on this thing, so I will go along with the group as far as sharing agreements. I have some pretty strong opinions, kind of like you do, a little bit of a twist of, you know, if we're investing all this money in infrastructure, and we're trying to spend money in advertising to get kids to come here, and one of the things for the activities, then sharing agreements goes against that. right? But if the board says, hey, we still want to have sharing agreements, then I would wholeheartedly support that. But it does seem counterintuitive and counterproductive, I should say, to our advertising campaign. So, but in that, when I say, okay, we're gonna have a football team anyways, we're gonna have trap shooting anyways, we're gonna have, at least this year, soccer, and some years we don't have it, we're gonna have golf anyways, if we wanna have a couple kids, then I can get behind that. I struggle with swimming.
Yeah.
2 CHS students and 12 coming in. That's the one that I really, and I don't wanna take anything away from the swimming program, but that's, at a certain point, I think we gotta look at activities and is it a viable activity?
That being said, that's the sport that I put in the bit about, different years have different enrollment.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really valid thing to think about with that sport. Cause I think there was a big number that went through a couple years back, a bigger number that went through a couple years back. And we're in a little bit of a lull right now with some middle school kids coming up. So it would be my advice would be to study it for a couple of years rather than making any big decision, because when you look at the total cost, it's a really small total cost.
Yeah, so.
But like in a classroom, you know, you have it like the kindergarten, for example.
Yep.
Let's say this year we had a really small enrollment, we wouldn't just keep all 5
You're right.
sections, we would
You're
pare
right.
it down because.
You are right.
So one of my many kids' best friend swam. And that family drove that swimmer to a tumbler to be part of their team. That was a big effort on the part of those parents to do that. So I don't want to just say throw swimming away as an activity.
Right.
But my question is, if we're paying 100% of the expenses for 2, and we got 12 coming in, that doesn't seem right. And so that's one that we really need to figure out something that the district pay for. So I'm not saying get rid of swimming, I'm just saying financially it doesn't make sense unless the district, and we've talked about this in previous meetings, so that's a shared agreement I think needs to have some pretty hefty financial reimbursement for the other districts.
And I was gonna try really hard not to give an opinion and to just ask questions and coach instead, and I'm gonna fail at that again.
Okay.
My advice would be that we look at keeping sharing agreements, but with a cost to each, and consistently, there is a cost for any sport to share, and so that it's the same across the board, there's no question about, well, you don't wanna share with this school, because they wanna share this program, and that it not be some of the kind of traditional, like, there's probably not a reason to share basketball with somebody. There's probably not a reason to share, maybe track, I don't know, I don't know much about track, I know, looking at me, you probably think I run all the time, but.
Well, and talking about swimming specifically, so like Mark said, it's an up and down thing. For boys swimming, we had, the first year we had the program, 8 out of the 9 swimmers were from Centerville. Second year, 9 out of 12, 5 out of 8, 7 out of 10, 7 out of 11. This year's kind of an anomaly,
Okay.
a little lower. Like I said, there's a big middle school group coming in next year. I think that'll pop that number back up in our favor on that side of things.
And Jared has been working with the coach on some ways to kind of recruit some more kids locally. We worked with the Y. We cleared up the question about whether a student has to be a member of the Y to go to our practices for swim, and that is not the case. They are not required to be a member to go to swim practices, just if they want to do the extra swim club and practices outside of our practice schedule. So that gives us a chance to maybe make sure that door's open for more kids in the district too.
I have a question about we talked about this family driving their kids to
Yeah.
Tiamat. Did they ever consider opening or allowing their child to attend one because they had swimming?
No, because it's too far for an everyday school.
Yeah.
Good question.
I would make a comment that you showed an example of how we would charge. And what I would look at is, we'd know what our costs were for the past year.
Right.
And I would base next year's sort of charges based on last year's costs. When you know what the transportation was, you knew how many trips they took, you knew what the entry fees were, and you knew what the equipment was, so.
Now, would you have the same charge for every sport? Because it doesn't seem like that.
Well, and yeah, like I put there, some sports you need to charge a little bit more for, just because of the cost of the equipment, especially.
Yeah.
Because helmets for football are ridiculously expensive, that's the big one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't wanna go with that.
No, you really like to wear those. They really do work.
That would have worked this far.
Mark, you wanna talk a little bit about the one-year agreement with Seymour
Yeah,
Trap?
yeah, and that was put in when we found out this spring that we didn't have an agreement and had kids shooting on the team. And that has been going on, I think, for quite a while, right? A number of years.
Since the year of the tornado,
So I'm super glad to report that thank goodness nobody must have gotten very injured in that time, because that could have been a major liability for the school district. I'm really glad we caught it and we have it fixed now. But we put it in for 1 year for the board of bill to have these conversations, to not lock in long term. I will tell you, I did talk to the superintendent over there who had a plan for next year for the 2 one-year sports. And I didn't pry into what the plan was. I had a plan for what that could look like moving forward for them. So while I assume if we extended an offer, they'd probably be interested. Scott's a great guy. I really like working with them. I think they also have some options available to them.
As far as the track goes, information I didn't know before they all came in tonight. If we did not extend that, I mean, honestly, that's gonna have a bigger detriment to our students than if we did.
I think it could.
I mean,
Absolutely it will.
Flat out. I mean,
Absolutely.
Because if we lose coaches, some of our kids, we have to back our numbers down because of the amount of coaches we have.
Or higher.
Because most of your coaches are coming out of Seymour?
No, just a couple.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, when we're talking about having to have 5 to 6 coaches
Yeah.
at a time,
It would probably add cost.
And these guys are
We need to hire
volunteers.
more
You
coaches,
guys
yeah.
are dedicated. Sorry, Derek.
No, you're fine. But no, that's why I'm glad they were here, because I know nothing about traffic.
So if we're gonna do this trap deal, and it sounds like we probably are, we just gotta decide.
We gotta figure out
the cost.
logistics of it.
Logistics.
Yep, and I think if I had from the board permission to negotiate that with the superintendents, I think we could come to a reasonable, all the guys in the area, or gals, starting next year, Davis County, Bolton, they're reasonable people, they've been in education a long time, we know, we kind of work at what our community needs us to do, and we can negotiate something out and bring it back to the table as an item to vote on, at that point. Okay.
And I do that.
So the question that I would need guidance-wise coming out of this, so that kind of solves one sport for us. Do we wanna make any changes to the other sports on this list? Looking at the agreements that we have, I did put in parentheses, none of our current agreements have any pay for a part, so we are giving those out of the goodness of our heart right now. Do we want to exercise our options within those sharing agreements to make a change to a different agreement? Do we wanna stay with what we've got? What would the board like us to do? Because Jared and I will work together to work with their teams to get this rolling. So boys and girls swimming is currently through 29 with the Albion, Moravian, and Seymour with no pay. Are we wanting to transition that to a pay model?
Yes.
I would, I will roll with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Starting
Yeah.
next year.
And while we're on that, like I said, Davis County did reach out about swimming, and I told them I was in a holding pattern until tonight, so I don't know what your opinion is on potentially extending that swimming offer to them as well.
To be honest with you, to make sure that we can have enough kids to be competitive, I would sure love to make a Centerville jersey mean something, or a Speedo, I guess it is, I don't know.
Swim cap.
Swim cap.
Well, and for what that's what Jared is asked, I had Barry from Molten that asked about swimming as well when we were at, because it's in our agenda. I mean, you don't wanna, I don't know, how do you do it, a percentage of coaching wages? Do we?
We can factor in our costs, so if you look on the
Again,
backside.
it's our jersey, you know,
Right.
it's our program, but there's gotta be.
And I will
some
say, like swimming wise, there's really not a huge equipment expense into that. You know, entry fees are pretty standard. Transportation's hit or miss. We usually just drive Suburbans or Amberwill and a parallel drive, you know, usually take two Suburbans to those, so it's, once again, transportation cost isn't huge.
Do we pay the Y anything?
No, it's part of the agreement where,
They use gyms.
They use our gyms
Okay.
for their stuff, and then we use the pool for swimming.
Is it in writing?
We're gonna be working on that, actually. It's funny you asked that question.
We've had a lot of handshake
I talked
agreements.
to, I talked to Garrett, the new Y director that we've got, so I'm on the Y board and Julie's on there with me and actually, we had talked about it, Sarah Linda and I had talked about, you know, we need to work away from these handshake, wink, nod agreements that are happening around places and get to some things on paper, so that we're all taken care of and kosher, so. She's gonna work with him and us to help with that, I think. We've got some good people on that board. Good things going on there.
As opposed to this board.
This board's got some great people. I'm torn up. Listen, it's been a long day.
Kind of get where you take.
Yikes. Oh, shoot, my evaluation is next month. I'm in trouble now.
Again.
Yikes.
Do we have anything else to discuss?
Should we be working on an extension of golf as well?
I think, I'm prepared to extend them all, but I think they all need modified for that.
So modify each to
Financial.
include
Yeah.
financial.
I would agree with that.
Yes, I agree. And let Mark and the other districts work out the financial part.
Got the financials, they bring it back
They
to us.
say that
Thank you.
improvement or-
I really appreciate it.
So all of these that say, like, for example, the swimming, 2024 to 2029, I mean, do they all need to have that kind of time frame on them?
They don't have to, no.
Okay.
That should-
No, they don't have to,
That's
those were
standard.
just because it was the template that
From the
they
Allers,
provided.
yeah.
Oh,
But they all have an exit agreement after that, either district can exit
Yeah.
any given year or two.
I just hate to see programs every year going through this,
Yeah.
feeling of, oh, are they going to, or they're not going to, you know,
I'll
that's
say
not
you're
weird.
paid in the 5 years then.
Well, and that they were, maybe.
I was
2
kind of
years or
hoping to
2
maybe
years.
bring back, our agreements to line up 2 years for all these.
Mhm.
So not just every 5 years, we just re-up.
Discuss. all
Yes,
of that.
okay.
That makes sense.
So that's what I was hoping to do,
Yeah.
but
And like you said, they're all built in where you could opt out right now for next year, they could opt out for next year.
Yeah.
I mean, if something would happen, that happens with agreements all the time. Sharing agreements for people happen that way too, like a person goes somewhere else and you can't share that person anymore, so that cancels it. Awesome, thank you very much.
Okay, I would like to thank the trap shooting folks for coming in.
Yeah, that was really good.
I think we have a better understanding. I hope you also understand that we, as a board, I think, have always supported trap shooting.
I
We
appreciate
see that as a very valuable thing.
I appreciate your guys' time, and please, in the future, come to me. I consider myself kind of an expert in this, because it's my team, so, if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask me, okay?
And we appreciate your passion for that, and
Yeah.
that's good for kids, and that's why we're here.
Yeah, Chad, I thought you were gonna give it up to your oldest graduate.
Yeah, here I am.
There's a lot of passion.
That's good.
Yeah.
I mean,
There's
that's,
a lot of passion.
that's what's needed. We
Yeah.
certainly appreciate that.
And we
Chad
couldn't
didn't get
do
you a
it
sub
without-
license too, if you like. But get you a sub license too, if you like, get you in the school, get you teaching a little bit, get you covered.
I think he said he wants to drive
Yeah.
cross too.
Oh,
I
I
remember
remember.
my dad took, there were 2 brothers, all 3 of us out to the Legion, and we all trap shooted before hunting season.
Thank you.
And that was the way that we bonded. And I'm glad the girls are involved in it too. It's fantastic.
We have 11 girls this year,
Yeah.
I believe. I'm very happy about that.
And you get parents and kids doing things together.
Yeah, what's next?
The last thing I want to say is, we always like to see students. So we'd like to see some of your folks, preferably with unloaded guns.
Our kids are very safe with it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I didn't want to fill your room with 60 of them.
That's
Thank you.
That's great.
And I don't know what a DCAP presentation is.
Julie's gonna
I'm
teach
gonna
us
tell
all
you.
about it.
Very good. Julie, you're up.
All right, so it's actually DCAP. I presented to you this very similar presentation last year. It's an annual thing that we have to do. Our DCAP plan is due to the AEA on May 1st. It is the District Career and Academic Plan is what DCAP stands for. It encompasses a lot of different moving pieces and parts and lots of people. And it's a team of people. We come together and we talk about all the things that, and document on a plan, all the things that incorporate career and academics and how they fit together, where they fit together. It's about a 30-page document of all these things that we do to prove that we're doing them. We include CTE teachers, we include gen ed teachers, we include the counselors, we include 8th grade staff, Mrs. Schofield, Mrs. Donalds are a part of that. Just all these people so that we can make this plan happen. Part of the DCAP plan is the ICAP plan, which is the individual career and academic plan. Very, very similar to what you probably all know is the 4-year plan for students who are leaving 8th grade going into 9th of how you're going to graduate Centerville High School and how are we preparing you for what your life after after graduation looks like from Centerville High School, whether that's college, career, apprenticeships, whatever that looks like for you, internships, things like that. So these are the 5 components of an ICAP plan, and every student, we provide information about these 5 essentials throughout their career through 8th grade through 12th grade, which is a huge component of the DCAP plan as the district plan. This is for the individual students though. So in your packet, you were provided this Future Ready district summary, and last year you got the same thing. This is a whole bunch of information provided to us from our school performance profile, which we can share with you more of. It's a live document that came out in October. It has a lot of different information on it. And so this slide that I have up, the top smaller section that has 3 of the circles, 55, 76, and 61, that is last year's information. The post-secondary readiness index that's on the bottom part of our screen is this current information that is also a part of this piece. These are the ways that we are judged, graded, evaluated, whatever word you want to use, from the state. And they're important information, and you can see that we have more students than the state because the little dot is the state average. We have more students than the state earning college credit, which is a positive, especially on our school performance profile. But you can see that work-based learning is something that we are a little below the state. The state average is 25% of students have had work-based learning, and there's a whole coding system of that, which Jenny and I had to do this spring, and we learned a lot. And we are currently working with Amanda Brink and the AEA agreement that you approved tonight. We plan to work with her even more next year and help her come in, or have her come in to help our teachers create some of these opportunities. And it takes a lot of paperwork, it takes a lot of planning, and a lot of going out and getting with businesses and things so that students have that work-based experience, because it has to be community-based. We can do a few things in-house, but it really is about creating partnerships with our businesses. I want to make sure you do know this is old data, because the state always provides us old data. So the top 3 are from the class of 22, and the bottom one is just from the class of 23. So it is 2-year-old data, but that is how they work. They're very retroactive in that. So we will get more data next fall, and it will be from 24 as we are almost to 26. So just know that we're making we're making good progress, and it's just important data to look at, but it's also not necessarily current reality, because we have already made changes from things that have happened in the last 2 years to improve some of these scores, hopefully. And the state also keeps changing how we're graded or looked at, so that's helpful as well. So now the target is all about this work-based learning experience and coding those correctly in your Power School or Infinite Campus as we transition. And so making sure that we have that done correctly so that we get the credit that we deserve is something that we've worked really hard on and will continue to do. If you have more questions about this Future Ready data, this is just like, you can see over here, We have a great preschool percentage, which I'm really proud of. Of our kindergartners, most of them have had preschool. We very rarely have any that, oh, where have you been? There's a few, usually a handful, 3, 4, 5 every year. But that's a huge number. As you can see, we're way above the state average. So that's something to be proud of in Centerville, that we have students who participate preschool, because we know early foundation sets the tone for their entire school career. Conditions for learning is also on this paper. We will not give this year because it is not part of the requirements. And so that's data that we look at, but not necessarily data that we're gonna focus on. So if you have more questions about this, I'd be happy to answer that. It's just a kind of a summary, and then the back tells you kind of where that summary came from and why it's there.
Just so you know, the reason conditions for learning is something we won't be given is the state transitioned the conditions for learning off of the list of items that we're just allowed to give, and you now have to get express written consent from every student's parent to be able to give it. And then all it asks is, am I safe at school? Do teachers care about me?
So we're finding some other ways to get some information
Yeah.
like that. So the DCAP has goals. Every year we set the same, similar goals, I shouldn't say same, but because we've had a lot of transition of staff in the last few years, we really want to make sure, and this is a requirement, but just that we're hitting that 100% of our 8th grade students will come to high school with a completed ICAP plan. And I think the biggest piece of this is we've been doing this for a very long time, but 100% of them completed with it done well, and with some opportunities of really thinking, how can I fit what classes in, not just, oh, I have to take these, but what do I want to do in the future, and how can I shape my 4-year plan to fit that? And it may change, and that is perfectly awesome and okay, but really helping guide students. So Mrs. Spurgeon, Robin Spurgeon, the high school counselor, is going to start that process April 10th with students, which is also earlier than it's ever been, and that's exciting, with students at Howard. And then they're having a parent meeting with students in May, then they're having another check-in at the Howard building, and then they're also having what they're calling a move-up day. So really, the whole piece of all of DCAP is just being really, what's the word I'm looking for? Just really intentional of making sure kids have somebody that works with them and understands what's offered. But also, if you're thinking you want a medical path, then these are some things you should look at. If you're thinking teaching, if you're thinking I just want to work after school, here's some ways to look at that and see some opportunity. Our career fair goes along with all of that. The next goal in our DCAP plan, this is last year's percentages. We wanted to increase 42 to 60% of all seniors. That was our goal for this year. We currently are sitting at 34%. Again, data is hard, and so the data that we get is definitely a little slowed in that. So we are close to the 34%. I think it's a little higher just because it takes some turnaround time after they submit the FAFSA. But we know that students are 84% more likely to enroll in college if their FAFSA is completed. So that's why it's been put upon from the state and ourselves to really help families by having nights and different venues and things that we have them fill out the FAFSA and have help for that, because it is cumbersome and it's a lot of questions. Colleges will help with that as well as they get closer to that, but it's just really important that they have that done because they're more likely to go to college if that's the route that they take, if it's completed. The third goal is just that students will have these reviews. So this is an example of an ICAP plan or the 4-year plan, and it shows all the required courses that you have. It also shows what your career goal is. If you want to get that honors diploma or the standard diploma, you don't maybe know that, and that's okay. But parent verification is something that we've really worked on this year. Having parents be able to see that and know that that's coming home to look at with their family members so that they can chat with them and discuss future plans and know where they are with getting their credits for the high school diploma. Our fourth goal for the DCAP is that 100% of our students know what they want to do post-secondary. Again, that does not mean they have to go to college. That could mean I know I'm going to work at CNC because we have a lot of kids that do that. And so we're gonna have a decision day, and that's another piece of the career fair to provide them with 85 vendors, I think. Is that what it is?
88.
88, okay. 88 vendors at that career fair to allow them exposure to career plans. I know some kids even have gotten jobs, summer jobs from some of those career things. So, or hey, come work for me after you graduate high school. So lots of opportunities for kids, but that's where this comes from, some of that stems from. If you have questions, just stop me too. But this last goal is IDEA, which we've talked a little bit about. I also wrote about it in my board report, I think last month. Had a meeting again about that today. We meet monthly. It's because of our special education students. We're identified through the state as a level 3, so we intensify what we have to do with that. But it's really to improve post-secondary outcomes with IEP students, so students with disabilities. We have a lot of students that once they graduate high school, they don't do anything after high school. So whether that becomes working at a local business, whether that becomes going to Centerville Community Betterment or First Resources, hooking them up, which through this process, we have really learned a lot about our community and have started to partner with some of those entities and have another visit with Optime to learn more about that and connect our special education teachers with that, because parents trust their special education teacher. They have a relationship with them, so providing that information when it's so overwhelming can be a really big benefit that we are hoping to see. Again, this data is from 2022, so we will be redesignated in the fall, and working with the State Department today, the division chief does not know what that looks like, so stay tuned and we'll figure that out. Last year, 2 of our biggest things that we wanted to do was provide training to Career Information System, which is CUDA Navigator, also known as K Navigator. We did that in September, and we have across the district 612 given at least 2 to 3 assessments for each student, and so we met that action step or goal and continued to improve the ICAP plan. I cannot say enough great things about Robin Spurgeon and her team at the high school and how they have really worked hard with Jill Whistler and the whole team in that office to really make careers a focus at the high school and to continue to have kids plan, because they need all the help they can get, and a lot of them are like, we have no idea. And so providing a lot of opportunities, and our Gear Up funds have helped with some college visits and some other things, so we're excited about that. So we've met a lot of that and are gonna continue. So we are going to continue with these 2 things. This is a different slide, I promise. But instead of getting the training, now we're gonna come up with systematic ways so that kids are taking different assessments in that K Navigator 8th grade through 12th grade, because they can repeat those, but it would be silly to repeat the same career interest survey every time in every grade when you maybe know what you want, so then you can continue to find ways to do that. We also are purchasing an ICANN curriculum, which will be used in 9th through 12th grade during some of their advisory lessons and maybe some freshman seminar and some different ways, which will help a lot with career path ways. And then, like I said earlier, with Amanda Brink and the AEA, working through the work-based learning with Elizabeth Weinberg and Missy Sisler, who helps do that with our special education students, getting them out into the community, building those partnerships, internships, job shadows, things like that. There's just a lot that businesses want from us for the liability sake, and then on our end as well. But there's tons of people in the state to help us with that, and so we're excited to keep that moving and going to help our students have more opportunities, which we know a lot of our students stay in the area, so if we can connect them now, then hopefully their jobs they'll come back or just start right after high school. I did that really, really quick, just because of the time that we're at, and we continue to work on the DCAP plan. It's been a great evolving process, and I'm really excited to see where our district is headed with career education and the opportunities that students really have through Centerville schools.
Any questions? Comments?
I think it's great.
Great program.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, thank you.
We are down to Approve personnel business procedures. I would like to make one person. That would be Pat Dolan, the face of Lincoln. Mr. Taylor may have something he could add.
Mrs. Schofield gave me some of statistics on Mrs. Dole, who has been definitely a mainstay in the district for a number, 33 years to be precise, actually. She started in the district as the district's volunteer coordinator, worked as a curriculum secretary for 20 years, was the face of Mystic School as a secretary, was at Lincoln for 5 years, and then 8 years up in the front office there at Lakeview. So she's been around the district and cared for a lot of kids. A very kid-focused secretary, the kind that in fact, we had some meetings with a kid who was having some behavioral needs, and one of the interventions was he just really loves to check in with Miss Pat in the morning, and that made a real impact on him. So she's a real special lady, and she's going to be very, very missed in the district.
Both my boys were a little disheartened when I read that out of the packet to them this weekend.
Yeah.
She's one of the
She's a mystic when my kids went through there,
Yeah.
2 of mine.
Yeah. She's,
And she knows every person, every parent.
Yeah.
You walk in and it's like, oh, how is he? Or how do you keep this straight? She said lots of practice.
She treats everybody kindly, everyone.
Yeah.
yeah.
I met Pat in 1989.
There you go.
Yeah, the 2 of her girls in school.
So,
Yeah, they're at Mystic.
Well, she's a special lady.
Great
Yeah.
lady, yeah.
And,
So, go ahead.
yes, sir.
I was gonna say, move to approve personnel with special recognition to Pat with a lifetime activity pass.
Okay.
My second.
thanks for the same wavelength. I think that's what you were thinking too. That's perfect.
We probably need to look at a policy.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
Yeah. And it may be anybody that's done over 30 years in my district, I call it my district, like Marty Sias, might deserve a little more than that. I would ask our administration to maybe think about that. We have a motion and a second for all the personnel business procedures. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And it carries. We are down to director reports. Mr. Taylor, who goes first?
Aaron.
Okay, mine's nice and short and sweet. Main things we're working on right now is getting the athletic facilities ready for spring sports. On top of that, doing our spring routine preventive maintenance on the HVAC equipment, plus 1,000 other things. But at the high school, the temporary gravel lot was taken out, and Clark's Landscaping has been working on doing the first of 2 seedings on the second half of the property. I also am working on gathering a few more estimates for the summer projects. Almost have the bids in for the Lakeview Band Room project. Those are being finalized. Yeah, pretty much it.
Yeah, as a board member, we ask certain questions, of course, finances is one of them. But I got asked about what happened to that gravel that they took off there.
Well, it was in the project originally when we signed with the high school construction project that will be torn out. And what Joyner did with it, I don't know.
Okay.
They had it allocated to other projects. Yeah.
Okay, so it's probably being used.
Yes, it'll be reused.
It's not going in a dump or anything.
No.
Well, thank you.
Any other questions from Mr. Beeson? Who's next?
Kate?
Pretty much was just in my report. Been real good responses with the National School Breakfast Week, introducing some new foods. So that was fun. Our numbers were up. As far as in the office, got some state reporting type stuff coming out. We've had received some donations from local organizations to put towards some of the negative balances, so we'll be working on looking at policy for that.
Anything else?
No, we'll be working on the Infinite Campus transition
The
in
rest
the
of
near
the spring.
future. So that's exciting. It's going to be a big project, but it's going to provide us some nice benefits.
Any more questions or comments? Thank you, ma'am. Mr. David?
Mike?
March 12th, we had our 3-hour annual required bus driver in service. Mike got to be a part of that fun.
That's what we're calling it.
Yeah. Every bus driver in the state of Iowa has to do it once a year, so we got that out of the way for another year. We did a bus driver training course with Indian Hills. Got Crystal license. She's a rock star. She went on her out one day. I put her on it, kind of an emergency situation the next day, and she killed it. So wow, she did an awesome
It's
job.
not the word to use.
Well, she did a great job.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thankful for that. It's good, especially heading into the busiest time of the year. So that's what we're getting ready for. That's about it.
Any questions? Thank you, sir.
Cameron?
Just getting ready for ISAS starts next week, so making schedules, putting in accommodations, making sure we got plenty of extra computers ready, and going off what Kate said, we had that first meeting this morning with Infinite Campus, and it's going to be a project we'll be working on for a while. So.
A lot of hours.
A lot of data.
All right. Any questions for Cameron? Thank you, sir. Mr. Dillon?
Wonderful. Jerry?
My report's pretty short and sweet because it's the lull between winter and spring. As Mike said, we're getting ready to kind of ramp up next week for the busy season. But so far this year, as I mentioned in my report, 62% of students at CHS have participated in at least one activity. And then in here, I had one student that leads everybody that's participated in 13. She's actually out for tennis right now, so 14. 14 activities. So, you know, just a rock star there. Big numbers for cheerleading with 34 trying out and making the team there, and just some of the other stuff. We've had really good turnout for our baseball, softball, and soccer clinics that we did on the no school days. We're gonna do a basketball one in April on that Monday PD day as just another alternative for kids on that no school day to get in and do something with somebody. I've been really fortunate with some of our non-teacher coaches kind of stepping up and helping out with those and doing a really great job. And then lastly, just invitations. So tomorrow is and AJ texted me to tell me to remind you, right? But SCC Academic Banquets tomorrow night. It will be broadcast on GoPitch if you are unable to make it over to Sheridan for that, but it will be on GoPitch for you there. This weekend we have our dual plays at CHS on display Thursday, Friday, and Sunday. And then the big week is April 7th. We have soccer home game. April 8th, we have middle school track. April 10th, we have high school track. So it'll be a busy week down at Paul Johnson Field. So.
Any questions? Thank you, sir.
Julie's kind of already given a curriculum report there with the DCAP. Anything you need to add to that?
Nope, we're good.
Infinite Campus.
Yeah, Infinite Campus.
Brad?
All my numbers are in my report. I was really happy they were good. I even did some math on it to figure how good they were, so I put those in green. But, you know, it's nice to see in February we had every grade level had an increase in attendance, and I think that speaks well for the spring. I was really happy to see those middle grades really improve. They were getting a little low, so I think the things we're doing are working pretty good. We got really good help in all the buildings. And like you talked about the secretaries, all three buildings, they know these kids, and they know the backstories, and they know everybody, so seems to be going pretty well.
Thank you, sir. Who's next?
Principals? Shall we go to principals then? I told Terry, so Terry has a senior event tonight, so, let her, excused her from that. She did put a report in. I believe she was the first report turned in this time around, so that's feeling good about that. So, you see it, give her a pat on the back. Brian, do you wanna give our first in-person report though?
Sure. I know we're been here a little while, so I'll go. You can work through all the many things on this. Now that I'm looking back at this board report, there's a lot of student council things. So shout out to the student council at Lakeville Elementary because they're doing a lot of great things. So you can see here, there's a couple things I put on here. One thing the student council did in this past 30 to 40 days or so was reach out to the kids and get, hey, what's one thing that we can improve? And you always get those crazy ideas, but what's one thing we can improve school? And a big thing they got was we need more balls outside. And so they organized and used some funding and pumped up all the balls. So you can see a picture there with the balls, and that's been a big hit. So with the balls there. One thing I want to emphasize, if you look at our Facebook, we did the book blast this year. It was really successful. Something that I wanted to try to bring here, that we had some success at Burlington, and there's been some other areas around the school. In the end, there was 1,600 or so books that went to our kids. So, and the nice thing about it is we had kids, regardless of if they were able to get funding or not get funding from parents, friends, or whoever out there, every kid got a book. So, PK through 5th grade, every single kid got at least one book. On average, it averaged out to about 5-6 books per kid. So it's just really good to see that excitement in the books were the big thing that kids are excited about. So that was exciting, and it brought some extra funds that we'll be purchasing more books. We purchased some for the library. We were able to use some of those funds. Many of you know we had a family that's tied to Lakeview that unfortunately lost everything, and we've had many donations, so thank you to the whole community for bringing those donations. But one thing I brought to the staff was, hey, we've got these funds, can we buy books too? And it's, yeah, so we just got them in today. I got to reach out to that family, but we got 10 bucks for each of those kids too. So that's something else that we can kind of provide for that family. So that was good. Something else with student councils, they did the kindness quote, so you can see that on there as well. They also did a food drive, so they've been very active. So they've done some great things with our student council there. And then the last thing on there, if you may have seen on Facebook, and Officer Moore was part of this, so thank you, and Ty Stewart, our county attorney as well. The 4th grade got to go and do their at the courthouse this year, and just really cool and awesome feedback from that too. So some great things going on at Lakeview. There's more in there, but some great stuff that's going on.
Any questions, comments? Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Jenny?
Okay, there's so many things going on at the high school right now that I can't even keep track. In fact, today we double booked intentionally on a Wednesday because we're literally out of Wednesdays for celebrations and to schedule like banquets and awards type things. So, we're double doing some things. So, we've got no choice at this point because it feels like a race. And we're not even, they say the big three. We've really only gotten through homecoming as the big one. We still have prom and graduation left, all in these last. So it's getting tight. It's getting really busy. Our ACT testing went really well. Sophomores went to Hills, and Julie touched a lot on the career development pieces and the work-based learning side of things, and just the 4-year plan. We still have a junior meeting coming up here right after Iowa assessments, and then we've got our sophomore meeting. Our sophomore meeting coming up, we've already had our junior meeting, and then our freshman meeting, which both of those will really play heavily into scheduling and their ICAP plan for each student and some of that piece. So we've got a lot of things scheduled to try to help kids get ready for next year and obviously years down the road. Jared mentioned our celebration tomorrow for our top 5%. That was started by Ray Miller, the way I understand it, former principal here. So do take a moment to watch that. I think Mr. Taylor and Mrs. Spurgeon and Jared and I are going to go recognize those kids in front of the rest of the conference tomorrow. I listed their names in our report, so really big congratulations to those kids. They know it's coming, so it's not necessarily a secret, and their parents are hopefully going to come and support them tomorrow as well. Iowa assessments, that's in full download mode for us to try to get all of those pieces in place, and there's a lot there, including like new building, new spaces, where are we gonna do all this and how that's gonna feel and look, so a lot of that going on. Career fair was also already mentioned. You have no idea how much work Joe Whistler and Molly Van Rokel, Robin Spurgeon, and Robin Hout put into this event, and it was a huge success. I mean, huge is an understatement. We did have more than, I think 88, and if I say that wrong, Joe will correct me tomorrow. But just so many people, businesses that came. She talked with me a little bit today. The feedback from kids has been amazing. So many kids, so appreciative, and learned things that they didn't even know existed, opportunities that they didn't even think were available in our part of the state. So really big ahas there for a lot of kids. The only feedback that was maybe negative from the businesses was it was too long of a day, which I don't know how to fix that, because we had so many kids that wished they had more time. So we talked about maybe reorganizing to try to put like businesses together, and maybe that would help kids maybe not do so much searching, but I don't know. I mean, it was a really great event with a lot of really good things that happened, and saw a lot of you all there, and you know just exactly how awesome it was. Kudos to Mrs. Westerkamp and our advanced food class. They prepared a wonderful pulled pork meal with macaroni cheese and scotcheroos and the whole thing. It was really good. They did a fantastic job. So our students really appreciated that, and I think our businesses appreciated it too. Just the other pieces on here, I hate to say it, but they feel like they're less important right now. So we've still got a lot of professional development going for our special education teachers. We're still working all of the EA stuff through and the SDI pieces through. Our teachers have, last PD Day, got together, and we've really taken a look at students that they share, so grade level teams, and we've really talked about students that we're worried about, that we need to provide some extra support to, because we are midway through this last semester as of last week, and so it's really important that we get kids that are struggling or failing, that they understand what that means for them in the future. So if they need help, we want to try to get them on the right track in every way possible. And then our meetings coming up, just in terms of parent-teacher conferences. We've also got the sophomore and the freshman meetings coming up to help plan. We've got an academic banquet that we've scheduled that I don't know that we've done here before, just to honor 9th through 11th grade students that have done well academically this school year and in consecutive years, so we'll be looking for that. Our senior awards night is scheduled for early in May. Our move-up day was mentioned for 8th graders coming up to test out the high school, see what that looks like. So we've just got a whole lot of things jammed into the calendar right now. Yeah. Yeah. Any questions for me? Sorry.
No questions, comments? Thank you, Brad. Okay, we are at the point where I know we approved the agenda, but it doesn't say superintendent's report anywhere on there.
I apologize for that. That's not me.
I could serve like a principal in that regard. And my report would just be, I really appreciate, I mean, you get my reports every week, so you kind of see the nuts and bolts of what's going on. And yes, Infinite Campus is going to be a major undertaking this spring, but I think the most important thing coming out of this meeting, we knew looking at this meeting this was going to be a big meeting. There's a lot of heavy subjects here. I just appreciate working with a group of people. Again, I'm not sucking up because my evaluation is next month, but like we went through a whole process. We talked about these sharing agreements, we talked about the advertising. I think we've really found some ways to put things on the table and really kind of mess with it and find out what's going to work well for us. And I appreciate that conversation at these meetings, and that we're able to disagree and agree about some things and then come to a conclusion that's good for the kids.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Taylor? We are at that point of the meeting where it's board takeaways. Who would like to go first? Rock, paper, scissors.
No, I'm not getting the chance. I got to hats off to the career fair. That was, I was there on behalf of my employer. To those that said it was too long of a day, I challenge you. I didn't think there was enough time. I mean, so many good kids from freshmen up, holding, engaging conversations, and even if it wasn't finance, it's just having a conversation. What are you interested in? I don't know. I think I'll be an electrician. Well, there's a guy over there. Or, hey, they're over here. Go do the drunk models over here. So It was fun. It was a fun day. We haven't had the flight simulator, but yeah, it was fun. And glad to be a part of it.
Kevin, are you next?
Sure, okay. I enjoyed the career fair too. And I'm kind of glad that I talked to you guys from the airport coming out, because there's some kids that never thought about aviation as a career. And we walked a couple of them over to Indian Hills, and like, I'm interested in the flight program. So I think it's huge, and I think it's a great thing. So thanks for letting us be part of that. So I would like to thank Lisa, even though this is a long meeting. I think it's been 5 or 6 packets through. It's been less than 100 pages. Less reading. Thank you very much. Keep up the good job. My main takeaway though is we're not used to public comments. We're not used to having a lot of people in here. And so that was a little bit different. When we did the tax thing last year, nobody showed up. And so all of a sudden this year they showed up. And so as I was listening to them, there's a lot of frustration. People get frustrated over taxes and everything. And it was unfortunate that they didn't come to the preceding meetings where we laid a lot of that stuff out, where we spent time going through it in detail. But they weren't here for that. So just the lesson learned from that is, next time we do that, maybe that should be part of the public hearing agenda, is to do some education so that they see it, because to sit there and verbalize and throw all these terms out, they're not going to pick up on it. But if we can have a presentation ahead of that, talks about some of that, because they're not going to come to the preceding meetings. And that way it would help to maybe better explain some of the things that we're doing, just so that we can help the taxpayers understand a little bit better. So, yeah.
So you're saying have the sort of open part of the meeting second?
Like to do a presentation.
Do a presentation.
Do a presentation as part of the public hearing.
Yeah.
If that's permissible.
If that's permissible.
Yeah, just so that we do some education before, because I think a lot of them are frustrated that, what do you mean we can't talk? What do you mean you won't talk to us? We thought that's what it was for. Even though you read the statement, the people just, we don't have people that come to these enough to understand that's how it goes. So even though you read the statement, it didn't click because they're not used to coming. But I'm just talking about, how does the budget work? How does the statement work? That center column, I think it's one of those things you talk to, but unless you put it up there and say, this is mandated by the state, this is all we get in there, this is all we have, no district in the state likes that, we're trying to put out the best information with this crappy template. But I think to sit and educate them, so that when they do come to question, or do come to comments, then I do think we need to be careful on interactions.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were tiptoeing along the line.
We were more
there.
tiptoeing, yeah.
Yeah, more than I wanted.
But anyway, so I'm just saying, maybe do, part of the public hearing is to do some education to the public. It doesn't have to be in depth of what we did in the past, but just a little bit.
That's it. Who's next?
And to go from what I will,
Oh.
just to kind of go with what you said, Kevin, it is really hard to sit here and not reply, because it kind of gives the message that you don't care what they're saying. And you do, but that's the rule. And so that is really hard. And the other thing is that I really, we had a lot of really good conversations about some, the sharing and then the advertising, and I just love the way we all listen to each other and share ideas, and sometimes don't agree, but yet it's respectful, and it's just a very enjoyable conversation.
You ready?
Jared, the camp, what else we do? We did baseball, softball.
Soccer so far.
Soccer so far. Did we advertise for that?
Yeah, so we sent it was on the district Facebook page. Some of the coaches put it in like their band groups to let people know. And I emailed it to like the middle school kids. That's about.
So I know that somebody's seen it on Facebook that their child doesn't even go to the school that came and participated in it, and they thought it was wonderful. So I've heard good things. So that advertising worked there. I mean, we haven't got a student. We haven't got a student yet, but we're working. But no, I kind of click
Yeah, you can find that there. It cost them $7,800. That's good enough. Invoices in the mail. I'm kidding.
There we go.
Right.
All right, we got,
Was that free?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, they're all free, yeah.
yeah, we got 2 left. Actually,
Well, I'll talk about the advertising too, because I thought the conversation, like you said, was really good. And it's good that we have some people that have some expertise on that, but, you know, I thought, Derek, you know, has done a lot of that, and some of it's been involved to a certain extent with it, never had to advertise that much, but it helped to have the expertise here to tell them some things. And what Mike said, it really bothers me when they open and roll and then come back here for a sport, but I guess we can't do much about it.
Well, maybe if they do come back with activities, they'll realize that they miss us and want to come back.
Oh, I'm sure.
There we go.
Mr. Moore.
Mine is for Mark and the team. I think what you guys have come up with for next year, looking at positions and different things like that, excellent job. I think from what I understand and what I know, so thank you for putting the work in and coming up with the ideas, being creative on some things, so good job.
One of the things I've thought about for a while is we have a meeting and some people come like they did tonight. And I really appreciated those people coming. Maybe I didn't really, I was frustrated. But I've often wondered, you know, how the president gives his speech and then they have all those commentators that interpret it for you. What if we had on the pitch, for example, Mr. Taylor go in tomorrow morning and say, well, this is what they talked about and here's the background. Here's why they thought that way. Would that make sense to have him explain what happened at the meeting?
I think, I'm not done with my comment yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Taking away.
Yeah. People don't understand the process, and the state has made it that way. Just the same as, you know, they put the max, this is what people, they see the max on there, and that's automatically what you're getting taxed. I don't think people are gonna understand, because all they look at is, well, this is the max and I'm gonna be taxed, right here, this is what's happening. And I'm mad about it. I would be too if I was taxed that max. But they're not understanding whether it's school board, city, county, that's not true numbers. So I don't think, I get where you're coming from,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's gonna matter.
We're well past 30 days after the condition of the state report, which is the statutory requirement for the state legislature to set the budget necessary. We're well past that.
And I'm glad that you brought up the point that we're having increased for 3 years. That was
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Because nobody notices that.
My last comment has to do with, and we do it every meeting, approved personnel business procedures. And I've thought about that, and we have resignations, transfers, employment contracts, and volunteer agreements. And what that really represents is a human being's most valuable commodity, their time. And, you know, we kind of blow right through it, and I understand, but when I stop to think about it, those people have given us hours, years of their life. And I don't know that I have shown enough appreciation for that. So, and maybe I can figure out a way to do that. But is there any other comments before we adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.